sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work. You
It's
just can't
crap.
say it.
It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and we've got a special, well, kind of a special show tonight, a really important show where we're going to discuss some issues of free speech, because we all saw that Labour councillor get found not guilty of incitement. So it seems that if you're saying something that offends the left, you go to prison. If you're saying something that offends the right, you don't go to prison. Some of you will believe that Ricky Jones, when he said we should cut the throats of people, some of you will believe that that is incitement, and some of you will believe that he should go to prison. I personally believe in the definition of incitement, whereby you have to specifically list an incident. So you have to say, I want you to go to X migrant hotel and burn it down in order for you to be guilty of incitement, rather than burn down a migrant hotel for all I care. But if you do believe it's incitement, I'll go with that and I'll accept it. And if you believe it's not incitement, then you're with me. But here is the critical point. Why on earth do we have 2 different systems? Why is the one rule for one and a different rule for the other? Well, Asher's here, but so is Connie Shaw from the Free Speech Union. So we're going to discuss all of this, and I think it's an interesting subject. But first, let's just see what Ricky Jones did. And this is the thing that didn't get him into any trouble, found not guilty.
We've got children and women using those trains, destroying some relatives. They are disgusting, nasty bastards, and we need to cut all their throats and get rid of them all.
He wasn't being metaphorical, he was being literal, and he's at the head of a sort of mob of people, whereas Connolly, she was just twittering and deleted it later. He also got bail, she never got bailed, and she got rubbish advice from a lawyer. Well, she probably would have been found not guilty.
I'll tell you what I'm going to say to you, and Connie can perhaps comment on this. I will say to you, if he is not guilty of incitement, then Lucy Connolly is not guilty of incitement either. I can understand, I hear what Ash is saying, I don't agree with him, but clearly he is talking about physical violence, whereas Lucy Connolly was not talking about violence at all. She was saying, burn down a migrant hotel for all I care. What is the situation, Connie? Should we be worried about a 2-tier system?
Yes, we should.
This is Connie Shaw, by the way, for Freedom of Speech.
We said that. I said that.
I was just reiterating it.
What happened, Connie, just to be clear, the gallery weren't listening when I introduced you at the beginning of the show, and they're now kicking off.
But our audience had forgotten because they've got the memory of a goldfish.
But Connie, on a serious note, many of us were troubled by the jailing of Lucy Connolly. This Ricky Jones, whether you believe that he's guilty of incitement or not, what he did is worse than what she did. I think we can all agree on that, can't we?
I agree that it's worse what he did. I mean, both of them were very disgusting comments and not wise to say what Lucy said was not wise, and hence she deleted it 4 hours later and apologised.
Yeah.
But the difference here, and I think where the two-tier justice comes in, was when Lucy was remanded in custody and Ricky Jones was released on bail. Now, being released on bail meant that he was able to see his friends and families, but basically go about on his normal life until he had to be back. In the meantime, Lucy Connolly, remanded in custody, doesn't have access to external advice. It's absolutely devastating that we didn't get in contact with her fast enough before she very unwisely pled guilty to the charges.
And I don't think she met the tests for not being bailed. You have to be a danger or risk of flight, which she wasn't. So they sort of bent the rules to fix it.
The idea that she was so dangerous that she couldn't possibly let out.
She had nothing, not even a parking ticket.
But hang on a second, there is an important point here, Connie, isn't there? So it sounds like, and I mean, you can't preempt the court. All you can do is give me your opinion. But it sounds like the courts are not as crazy as the police and not as crazy as the Crown Prosecution Service. It sounds like you feel that Lucy Connolly wouldn't have been found guilty had she pleaded not guilty. And now that fills me with delight, because it's similar to, do you remember the old situation when what was her name? Alison Pearson wanted, as Director of Public Prosecution, no, the Director of Public Prosecutions, it doesn't matter what her name is, but she wanted to prosecute more men for rape. And basically, more and more men were put before the courts on less and less fulsome evidence. And in fact, the courts just kept not finding them guilty. So actually, at all these problems that we've had in the past, Connie, sometimes the courts have been the one group of people that have stayed sensible.
Yes, and so it's the same with Jamie Michael when he pled not guilty. The jury took 17. I know. I realise not Alison Pearson.
No.
I thought you were going to talk about.
No, don't worry about it.
But yes, so when Jamie Michael pled not guilty, it took 17 minutes for the jury to unanimously acquit him. Yes. Whereas the same basically happened with Ricky Jones. It took them half an hour to decide, he's not guilty of inciting dangerous
The vast majority of people that didn't take their lawyer's advice and plead not guilty and actually fight it were found not guilty.
Exactly,
so those
and the advice is therefore always firstly, always come to the Free Speech Union if you are being accused of a speech crime. And nearly always plead not guilty. I think that Lucy thought by pleading guilty that she would then get her sentence wouldn't be that harsh.
And you'd get bailed.
But even if she had pled guilty, she'd still be waiting for her trial for God knows how long behind bars. The other thing was that Ricky Jones, his trial was delayed quite a few times, so he had over a year to come up with his defence. And then he had his defence heard by a jury.
But this is troubling about the British Constitution, isn't it? Because what we're saying, and I think we've said it many times before, police are extremists when it comes to free speech. Now, whatever you think of them, they're extremists. Crown Prosecution Service, extremists. Judges, extremist. Keir Starmer, extremist. Director of Public Prosecutions, extremist. Jury, not nutters. So actually,
what happened in this Ricky Jones case? Were they advised by the judge? Because they're meant to be sensible, the jury, but it doesn't sound like they came
lots of people aren't happy, and I've been listening to talkTV, and yes, people not happy about this. And I'm not entirely sure how juries are picked, whether it's just random, you just get the letter saying you're going for jury service. The other thing is, juries don't publish their deliberations, so we actually have no idea why they decided. Hopefully it was the fact that they just really didn't believe that it was incitement to violence.
But the judge normally pushes and sort of suggests if you think this, you must find them not guilty.
So I've sat on multiple juries. I just happen to have been sent the letter a couple of times. I've done the Old Bailey, Warrington Crown Court, whatever. In fact, I have a lifetime exemption for having been randomly called. What generally happens, so obviously it's a criminal offence for me to tell you what happened in the jury deliberation rooms for the cases that I was on. But what I would say as a piece of general advice is that what quite often happens is you go, look, on balance of probabilities, this person might be guilty, but they're not guilty beyond reasonable doubt. And in my experience, that reasonable doubt bit is taken incredibly seriously. And I think when you're talking about things like intent, that becomes extremely important. But my concern here is, I mean, look, a lot of people, Connie, perhaps you can talk about this. A lot of people are going to agree with Asher Gould on this, which is this guy, when he talks about slitting the throats of his political opponents, he is guilty of incitement. Throw the book at him. Why are those people wrong?
Well, I think that in order to guarantee that we have free speech in general in any country, we should be adopting the Brandenburg test, which is what the US uses for incitement to violence.
And explain that in full.
So basically, for speech to be considered incitement to violence, it has to be likely and intended to cause imminent criminal unlawful activity. Yeah. I don't think that Ricky Jones's comments, even though they're disgusting and appalling, and I have this internal conflict thinking, Jesus, I really do struggle with the idea, yeah, he's just walking around free and he's not got in any trouble for saying this. I mean, I'm sure it will badly affect his career. I don't imagine you'd like to think he's not going to come back from this. But that's the other great thing about freedom of speech. It reveals who the bad people are.
Yeah. But I think he was actually, I think like Lucy Connolly, he at that moment the red mist happened and he just, and at that moment he would have attacked other, the opposition and with a mob just for 30 seconds. But
I know, but I still think a lot of these people are all bark and no bite. I really don't think he would have
probably
actually...
if someone...
Well, I've got to be honest with you, and when I get messages saying if I see you in the street, I'm gonna thump you, or whatever, I don't take that literally. I don't believe. I mean, I meet people all the time who watch or listen to my stuff, and some people. I mean, I got called a transphobic fat bitch once. But aside from that, people are very, very polite, and I always worry that when you're saying things like, oh, I saw Connie Shaw, I'd kill her if I ever saw her in public, what they actually mean is I didn't personally agree or enjoy with what you were saying. I mean, I don't think actually these death threats that Labour MPs complain about are real death threats.
It does sometimes actually happen, doesn't it?
And there have been murders of MPs.
Yeah, you've got to take them seriously.
Yeah. That's...
Well, I mean, if someone even that James Whale had a guy who he did murder 2 other people, and his name was on the list. And you do get occasional media people, obviously. Jill Dando, and you've got the MPs that get
David Amos.
So it's probably 1 in 100,000 or 1 in a million that actually do anything. But you don't. The only
time I've reported,
you can normally tell if it's serious, can't you?
The only time I've reported anyone is when I worked at the House of Commons. I worked with a young blonde girl. That's relevant because of what happened. And she'd written an article in the Telegraph, and she got some quote unquote fan mail. Which was graphically sexually violent, which I handed over to the police simply because I mean, I don't know anything about stalking in reality, but it was the level of detail that it went into. I mean, if somebody said, oh, if I see you in the street, I'll throw a drink over you, I wouldn't be so worried. But clearly, I'm not going to repeat the graphic detail that this went into. But where is that line then? Because if I
the Brandenburg test.
Well, I suppose that is the Brandenburg test, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily harm in reporting these things because it could be a threat, but at the same time, actually prosecuting someone, like something
it's
being
illegal to threaten to kill someone, even if you're not actually going to carry it out. That's against the law anyway.
Well, the other thing you were saying, Ash, I don't, having the red mist come in front of you is not a reason to prosecute people.
No, but then you would actually do it, even if it might be for the last 30 seconds.
No. What Asher is saying is, in his opinion, having watched the video, that guy is a danger to his political opponents, a physical danger. Yeah. That's what you're saying.
Just for 30 seconds, his adrenaline was up, and if there's no time limit, like Lucy Connolly, she deleted a tweet, even if it's for 5 seconds that you want to. What is the legal? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but do you believe? Look, Asher, I get that you oppose the hypocrisy.
I think there should be freedom of speech.
But do you believe? Well, I mean, incitement's not free speech. But do you believe that he wanted people to go out and slit the throat of right wingers?
No, but I believe in that 30 seconds, if another load of people would have ran like a football crowd, you know how people behave in football crowds, in crowds, it's a sort of instinct human thing. I think it just goes back, to our fighting other tribes. So when you're in a football crowd, you do go a bit weird. I remember hearing about Nazi Germany, and there was someone saluting Hitler, and this other person, everyone in the crowd was doing it, and he said he found it very difficult. He had to hold his arm not to salute. There's some sort of weird hypnotic psychology that happens.
I mean, that is the difficulty, isn't it? Because we can all say we're used to talking quite openly down the pub, but whichever way you look at it...
They tried to ban that, didn't they?
Well, yeah. Probably a bad example, actually. But clearly, when you've got Twitter, it is like giving you a megaphone, isn't it? So everybody can read what you say. How do we police this properly? Should we be policing it?
Well, I don't think it should be any different. It doesn't matter how many people... Speech doesn't become more illegal just because more people saw it. And that's really strange about the way that Lucy was prosecuted, because there were so many people saw it. So, well, that doesn't make it more illegal. And the other thing as well, actually, about this judge, in particular this judge, in her sentencing, he started going on about diversity and inclusion, how that was something that binds us together as a society.
A judge activist.
Yeah, well, it really does seem that way.
It sounds like they sort of guided, or she guided the jury, said if you do this, you must find them not guilty, and it was probably a
but
bit
the judge also, I mean, let's be honest with you, they've got their own egos. If they see a big load of people in particularly the press gallery, then they will start playing to the press gallery. Now, I have to say to you, any judge sat here would strongly deny that. I can guarantee you it's true.
And how are you going to climb in your career? You know, Keir Starmer was former head of the public prosecutions. You know, there's a lot of things going. I know they say they're uncorruptible and all this, but you know, if you do the right things with the right people who have captured all the institutions, you'll rise up in the ranks.
Well, look, let's just talk about wrongdoing as a fact. There is no doubt about it. It is noticeable, just like with Alison Saunders and the rape cases, which was really pretty disgraceful, actually, dragging all these blokes through the mud when the cases were pretty meritless. It's very, very clear that the Crown Prosecution Service, established by, I think, Margaret Thatcher, was supposed to be fair and it was supposed to be consistent. And actually, in reality, they're only supposed to prosecute when there's a reasonable chance of conviction and where there's a public interest. And what they appear to be doing is prosecuting people in free speech cases where they know they're going to lose. But they're doing it because they know that the trial itself is a punishment.
And it will scare others from doing the same.
Correct.
I mean, just look at the case of Hamit Koskin burning the Quran in a political protest in February outside the Turkish consulate. And he was originally charged with harassing the institution of Islam.
Yes.
And that was dropped.
Does that even exist as a crime?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, it was just outrageous. I mean, how could it? That doesn't make logical sense. How can you harass an idea?
Yeah.
A
but of course, the other point that your colleague Sam Armstrong made to Julia Hartley-Brewer is that in the case of Hamid Koskin, they
is that the one in Manchester or one in London?
One in London.
Yeah. So literally, the judge in his either summary or sentencing, I don't know which, said the fact that Mr. Koskin had been stabbed during the incident proved how offensive his Quran burning was to Muslims.
Which basically says to Islamists out there, if you want your blasphemy codes to be enforced, you just go and attack people, because then by de facto, then you're the evidence that you've been alarmed, harassed, and
But
distressed.
not only that, I mean, the guy who burnt the Quran didn't get bail. The guy who knifed him got bailed.
And then the second guy, there was another guy who came past on a delivery bike, got off his bike and just had a kick at Hamid.
Well, before
there's been no attempt to try and find that guy.
He not only kicked him, people didn't notice, but I noticed that as the guy ran around being chafed by the knife man, the guy on the bike trips him up. You can't see because of the bike, but from watching and playing football, I can see he stuck his leg out. You can see the slight movement. And the guy, so he's doing that. He's sort of almost attempted murder because he's trying to let the knife man catch up.
The other
with him,
remarkable, well, it should certainly be an accessory to the stabbing. The other thing that I find extraordinary about that case was that he wasn't protesting Islam. It wasn't a protest about Islam. It was a protest about the way that Turkey was ceasing to be a secular state. Because if you think about it, the Ottoman Empire had a grand mufti and all this sort of thing. When Ataturk created the modern Turkish state, he decided to make it secular. That was what the protest was about, which is why he was at the consulate and not at a religious institution.
And how ironic, I'm pretty sure Hamit's an atheist, and the fact he came here for his political freedom, and now this has happened to him. And I'm not saying that, I mean, firstly, I'd be terrified to burn a Quran. I think there are more reasons why I wouldn't do it rather than because I think it's just a not nice
Again,
thing to
self-censorship, isn't it?
Well,
sort of
yes,
fear,
it's not nice to do. It's not a pleasant image, but political protests sometimes have to be offensive. Like that, if that's the message you want to get across, then but you should be able to do it. And under Article 10, under the ECHR, you have the right to do that.
It's a very difficult thing with Quran burning. We can speak about it in a minute because I claim my right to do it, though I have no intention of doing it. In the same way as I have a perfect right to ride a horse through the countryside, but believe me, if you saw me in real life, you would know it would be a bad idea, right?
Especially for the horse.
But exactly. But sorry, that's the point I was making. But it does worry me because let's be honest, a lot of these institutions are being so nice and so Islamophilic. Because they're worried about what happened with Charlie Hebdo. Basically, what we're doing is, and this is, I mean, I know this isn't your area, but we are literally bringing people to the country with uncontrolled immigration, and we know for a fact that it's creating a risk of terrorism if we offend their religion. I mean,
the police doxed the guy in Manchester, released his details.
I know.
Well, they did. The police doxed.
It's like a death sentence, because a week before in Europe, someone had been murdered live on stream in Europe somewhere.
Anyway, I think we're running over time, but we're sticking.
It does
with
remind me of when me and Whale ate Sadiq Khan's book live on air. We got a lot of complaints about that, but it was worth eating that book, wasn't it?
You couldn't read it properly because it was printed on that weird paper.
It
wasn't nutritious.
We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
No, before we go any further with this show, what just happened to my phone, Connie?
What, by the way, what just happened on tomorrow morning from 10 a.m. on YouTube?
So Connie asked for the Wi-Fi password, and then my phone said, "Do you want to share the Wi-Fi
password?" Yeah, welcome
password?
to the iPhone world, because you only just come into the iPhone world.
Sorry,
we've been doing that years in the iPhone world.
Stop, everyone,
world.
stop.
Yeah.
Did you ask my phone to tell you the Wi-Fi password?
So what happens, Andre, is that when I clicked on the Wi-Fi and it came up with you need to put the password
These
in,
Android
because
users.
we have each other's numbers, therefore it connect and it just knew. I don't even know if you do have to have someone's phone number for it to do that. I think it's just because it consents.
That is unsettling. That is unsettling.
It's such a useful thing.
By the way, I just want to say to you, in honour of our great and departed friend James Whale, we are going to, from now on, every single Friday, halfway through the show at 11 o'clock, show a classic clip. We're going to call it Whale Watching. You're going to be able to nominate what clip you want, but we haven't quite worked out how to do that yet. Basically, we could set up an email address and give you that email, but none of us can be bothered checking it. So we're just
we'll work it out, though, as we go along, like we normally do with everything.
But the point that's been made to me by the production staff, who obviously I've inherited from James Whale, they've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of amazing clips. And also, because this used to be James's show, and, you know, we can never quite fill his shoes, we're pleased to do that.
He was a size 7.
I could fill his shoes. It'd be just no problem.
For me.
In fact, he'd struggle to fill my shoes if I'm being totally honest. Anyway, look, I want to. So that's coming up at 11 o'clock, and indeed every 11 o'clock on a Friday night. Okay, so Connie, I want to ask you this about this situation with some social media influencers. I'm just going to read the story so everybody knows. Influencers arrested. This is slightly out of date because they've now been punished. Quote-unquote punished. Influencers arrested after targeting Orthodox Jews in water pistols attack. The Greater Manchester Police have arrested 2 men who allegedly filmed themselves spraying Orthodox Jews with a water pistol from a moving car. The men aged 26 and 36 are being held on suspicion of racially aggravated common assault. A vehicle which the police believe to have been used in the footage alongside the water pistol have also been seized. Now, this goes through all of this. So, okay, obviously Orthodox Jewish people, and we saw it with Mizzy doing the whole thing about taking the mick out of them, and it's not a very nice thing to do, and it's considered amusing by some people, and certainly not by anybody in this building. But here's what's really interesting about this. There's now been an update, hasn't there? Which is that unlike when we've seen people using hurty words and going to prison, these guys who have actually attacked and assaulted a group of Jewish people, what happened to them, Connie?
So they have been given what is called a community resolution order, which is the most lenient option that the authorities could have gone for.
This basically means that they will have to meet the people in question and apologise.
Well, because they apologise, they've been given this. But Lucy apologised for her tweet, and she's still got 31 months in prison.
So hang on a second. So let's just make it really explicit for all of the viewers and listeners. If I say, burn down a migrant hotel for all I care, I get, 30 months in prison?
31.
31 months in prison. If I take a super soaker to a Jewish person on the grounds it amuses me to upset them, then that is fine. Well, it's not fine, because there is a community restoration thing, but what I'll have to do is just apologise in that case. But that is just madness.
Yeah. And then it winds me up, because I used to be like, oh, was there really two-tier? And now it's just every day you see something,
obvious,
you think people just say, oh, it's a right-wing dog whistle. There's no such thing as two-tier policing. How can you see these things happen and just be like, no, there's nothing to see here?
But I mean, obviously, Asher is Jewish, but I just wonder what Jewish...
Not that obvious.
I wonder... Oh, you have mentioned it once or twice, if I'm being honest. In fact, every interview with somebody from the Palestinian side...
You do. Then it makes it worse.
Yeah, that's right. Throws petrol on the fire. But what on earth must Jewish people think of this, Connie? Because if hurty words are used, so if a Jewish person stands up and uses hurty words about Hamas, they might get into trouble, and we have seen situations like that. But if you literally assault someone in the street, you're good to go.
And it was like a sort of Kristallnacht type thing, you know. It wasn't that serious, obviously, squirting. Well, first of all, it could be acid, but it was a bit like, you know, what happened in Nazi Germany at the beginnings when they started doing little things like that. You know?
Well, I think in general, you know, if you're walking the streets worried that somebody's going to throw stuff at you, whether it be from a water pistol, whether it be a water bomb, whether it be anything, on the grounds of your religious dress, that has got to be a deeply unpleasant and unsettling thing, because the problem is you don't know who's going to do it and who isn't going to do it.
And it escalates, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I just cannot believe that the police don't take this seriously.
Well, that's what's so ironic about it. The spokesman said that we're dealing with this incident with the utmost seriousness.
Well, you're not.
They're not, are they?
And they've been given a community resolution order because they apologised for going after Jewish people, shooting them with that water pistol. And in the background of the videos, they had a Jewish, a festival song playing in the background. It was explicitly because they were Jewish. And then there were other clips as well, in an airport or something like looked like an airport. They were going up behind Jews who had their Orthodox Jewish clothing on, and would play the sound of the Apple Pay. And then they turn around and be like, what was that? And they say, oh, I just got 60 quid off you because you're very rich. Like, these guys, like...
So I don't know what...
Oh, yeah. And then what's even funny is that after their videos, because their videos have quite, like, the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views, and I think one of them apparently is still on TikTok. It's been taken down off Instagram. But it's just, I just do not understand how... They added a disclaimer. They said, oh, by the way, this is just a joke. Please don't take it the wrong way.
I think if there was a channel set up, it was specifically dedicated to squirting Irish people or whatever group you're from, I think I'd take some offence at that, if I'm being totally honest.
Can you imagine if someone did this against Muslims? It would be equally as awful.
Yes.
Can you imagine, though?
This is the problem.
There should be. There should be outrage. Whatever group of people, whatever protected characters, you should not be targeted in being. It's also there's something even. The fact that it's so sort of childish is almost adds this sort of more sinister element to it.
But it's like that. It's like that moment.
They're not being hurt, but it's like humiliating them.
Yeah, it's like
you know, that is exactly what happened.
Exactly like you were saying. Well, you said Kristallnacht. It's exactly the same as was it Schindler's List where they were? You know, they have those wrinklet things. You know, they grow their hair long at the
Yeah,
side,
yeah.
and somebody had cut them off and was having a bit of a joke about it. That sort of juvenile behaviour can be incredibly intimidating.
Well, I've seen
when
that
it's-
lately in Syria because the Druze have these big moustaches and the Islamists are basically filming them and cutting their moustaches off. It's exactly that, and then they're killing them basically.
Yeah,
They're
so
throwing them off
so
buildings.
I mean, fundamentally, being squirted with a water pistol is not an upsetting thing. But if it's because of the way you dress, if it's done by someone you don't know, and also the other element to this is two big burly fellas drive past in a car and shove something out the window. You don't know what it is. You don't know whether it's a cost. You don't know. I mean, I don't know if you could do this, but presumably a water pistol could be filled with acid or corrosive substance. I don't know if it'd work, but certainly I wouldn't be willing to bet my life that they couldn't do it. But it's ludicrous. But here's my big question. In fact, actually, do we want to go to a break and
Yes,
then...
and then we'll hear Andre's big
question.
Get a
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, there's a number of really, really important stories on free speech. This is Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and we've got Connie Shaw from the Free Speech Union in especially to talk about a series of stories. Look, I don't know what the correct angle is on this. Oh, my big question, by the way, was...
Andre's big question.
Big question, yeah.
Is.
And I imagine you don't know the answer to this, but it'd be interesting for you to talk about it a little bit. Is it the police or the Crown Prosecution Service that are driving a lot of this two-tier justice? Do we know the answer?
I guess it starts with the police, and I do think that there has been sort of an institutionalised from listening and speaking to experts who have been within the police and now have sort of come away from it, and they're like, "What the hell is going on here?" They really are trained to really sort of with every, be very, very sensitive to the idea that words are basically violence, and that cracking down on. The other thing is,
and they're the only ones that get promoted, and in the judiciary who get.
But hang on a second. If I were a police constable, I would. I mean,
you'd be embarrassed, wouldn't you? Yeah. There was that video. There was a video of a policeman on the ring, captured on the Ring doorbell, and he goes up and he's just so embarrassed, stood there being like, "Hi, I'm here to talk to you about."
I've been told that a lot of them are pretty upset. But actually, if you're a constable, you're one of the people who is more uniquely capable of knowing what constitutes violence and what constitutes words than probably anybody else, because you see it on a daily basis and they know when things are going to kick off and when things aren't going to kick off. But anyway, let's talk about something that I think is crass and disgusting. How about, after everything that's happened, schoolgirls and school children are being asked to send Valentine's cards to migrants? Now, admittedly, the Valentine's cards say stop the Rwanda scheme and I love refugee rights. But I have to say, and I admit it's both sexes, but forcing teenage girls to send Valentine's cards to refugees, I find, given everything that's happened, I think it's probably one of the most crass and offensive things that I've heard recently, simply because Valentine's is associated with sexual relationships.
It's a romantic thing,
and refugees have been guilty of a disproportionately large number of rapes and sexual assaults on teenage girls. Who on earth came up with this, Connie?
I think they
I
should.
actually don't know.
I mean, no one knows, but
It's
God,
never anybody, is it?
whoever the person is who has come up with it should not be working with children. It flies, like many sort of so-called progressive ideology, it flies in the face of safeguarding, putting political ideology in front of the safety of children. Because, like you say, Andre, we've had such a surge in things like sexual. I mean, Afghans 20 times more likely to be responsible for sexual offences. We've just imported over 20,000 of them because of our own data.
It's gone up 4 times in 10 years. 4 times in London, the sexual assault level. 4 times in 10 years.
Do you know, Asher, do you know what Connie's done now? She's broken our rule of the show. Connie, what you have to remember is something that we've made clear on this show. We don't know who these refugees are, but we do know one thing about them. They're definitely not terrorists and they're definitely not sex offenders. We don't know who they are, but we definitely know those two things. I'll tell you what, it's an extraordinary thought, isn't it? That you're going to willfully do this. We know what's going on.
I know, and I think it's pretty much grooming, making these children, I mean, they're 5 years old. I mean, no child should be doing this, but it's almost like letting your guard down. So if something did happen, if this child witnessed something happen to another one of their friends, I don't know, you know, in any situation, like we saw the other day, the asylum seeker, was a 12-year-old girl, just disgusting things. And they'll be like, well, hang on a sec, these are the people that I have been told I'm meant to love and support their rights. But they couldn't possibly have done that. And, you know, even if their friend confided in them and said, this happened to me and it was a man from the hotel, they'd be like, but these are the good guys. And we've been told. Right. And it's sort of teaching children. I mean, children should not be writing Valentine's cards to any men in particular. I mean, anyone, it's weird, but particular men who they don't know, regardless of where they're from.
I mean, I did get a Valentine's card from my grandmother for about 10 years.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, I don't think she was actually up for it, though, if I'm being honest. But that was a joke. But
what she was.
But I have to say to you, I don't understand why somebody would do this, why they would sit there with these Valentine's cards. But I do want to ask you, Connie, something that was discussed yesterday, and Asher made a brilliant point. He said that that it's interesting in the Soviet Union when women started coming out protesting, because his view is, and I think it's a good one actually, is if you live in a totalitarian state, if your democracy has been denied of you, if free speech is being impeded, then blokes will kick off about it. And the government can back that off, call them all far-right extremists or terrorists or foreign infiltrators in the case of the Soviet Union.
Like it did in Ukraine.
But it's when the women start to panic and come out, the government really struggle with that. And it has to be said, women are starting now to become the biggest defenders of free speech of them all.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, the scenes outside the hotel in Canary Wharf?
Yes.
Yeah, and just seeing the fact that it's women and girls sat there, or in Epping, on the street.
But that's a response to an authoritarian... they're not even sort of intentionally doing it. It happens when you get an authoritarian government that will call you Nazis and thugs. So that's why you have the mothers protest, because I always wonder why. Why do you have mothers protesting in Russia?
Optics for the government is absolutely terrible. And good for them.
And so this is showing we have an authoritarian government. And that's the thing. It's like the people you say, how can there be people saying, right, Valentine's Day? These are the same people that think it's great for a burlesque dance for 5-year-olds and all that sort of thing.
I mean, that's the weird thing,
They've all been infiltrated. That's the thing.
What worries me is this thing that's being discussed in Brussels, which is shielding democracy. What it seems to me has happened, and I saw your boss, Toby Young, Lord Young, of wherever, Acton, yeah. But I saw him on the TV, and he said that he felt a little bit depressed because he thought that the Free Speech Union would capture most of the problems, but things are getting worse. What appears to be happening in government, and forgive me if I'm wrong, Connie, is that they know that migrants are raping children. They know that the country is extremely angry. They know that people feel that there's a democratic deficit, and their solution is to ban people talking about it. Yes. Is that a fair assessment?
And bring in more people who will carry out these things.
I mean, that was going to be one of my points. The fact that they speak about kindness, humanity and equality, but it's not kind to import people from alien. And I used to find this word so extreme, but I'm sorry I'll say it, alien cultures are incompatible with this country without asking the general general population how they feel about it, and then persecute them if they question it.
But there was
one of our cases, just quickly, one of our cases at the moment is a man called John Edwards, who's a local councillor, and he asked some questions on Facebook about the Afghan resettlement scheme in his area, and a fellow Labour councillor reported him to the police for racial hatred. He's now being investigated by his local council for these complaints. All he did was ask questions.
Well, I mean, there was you will know the cases better than I, but there was one guy who went before a magistrate or went before the Crown Court and said something that I believe is true. He basically said, look, where I come from, if a woman's wearing a short skirt, you can grope her because she's a slut, or whatever it was that she said, forgive the language. But that is effectively what he said. Now, let's just be clear on one thing, that he is expressing something that is factually accurate, which is in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in some of these places in the third world, this is the attitude towards women. He simply didn't know that. Now, look, from my perspective, that is evidence that he doesn't belong in Britain. Simple.
Yeah. I mean, this is why I have a lot of respect. And I also, sorry, I forgot to say that the woman who basically revealed this story originally is a woman called Charlotte Gill, who's an independent journalist, has been doing excellent
We love
stuff.
her. We love her.
And she hasn't been given credit at some outlets. But this is why I have a lot of respect for Kemi Badenoch, and I think that she is one of the first politicians to say explicitly, in no uncertain terms, that not all cultures are valid. And we have this cultural relativism has just taken over, and for some reason you say, well, it's just different over there. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's like
it's British English politeness, isn't it?
We're just.
Although there was a great story, Connie, about when they used to throw the widows of powerful men in India onto the funeral pyre with him. And a British officer, apparently, this is the story that's told, a British officer went and the Indians said, but it's our tradition to throw his wife on the fire.
The wives used to actually jump on the fire.
And the British guy said, and I respect your tradition to burn the wife, but it's the tradition of the British Empire that if you murder a woman, you'll be hung by the neck until you're dead. So you commit your tradition and we'll commit ours. I worry about this because the reality is there are a lot of people who believe that the sexual abuse of children is a price worth paying for a multicultural society.
Whether they believe it or not, the effect of their lack of action on this issue is that is the effect of it.
They must believe it. The figures speak for themselves.
That's why Jess Phillips, I'm sorry, she is a disgrace when it comes to this issue, and she knows very well herself. She only won her seat by just less than 700 votes. She won her seat in the general election last year, and when she won and gave her victory speech, if you can even call it that, she was heckled by men, pro-Palestinian men.
No, by misogynists.
Exactly, yes, they were just men. And she can't point it out. And the other day when she was doing the rounds, and Tom Swarbrick on LBC was asking her, but what about this stat about Afghan men who are, and, you know, I think it's good that he asked her that question. I was waiting for the time when someone asks her this question, are you not concerned about this? And all she says is, well, the patriarchy exists everywhere.
Yes.
And she cannot. And she was the one who refused Oldham Council, the local inquiry with the government's help back in last year.
The Minister for Girls, Women and Girls.
But Connie, this is where it becomes extremely dangerous, because we were last night discussing this with the Surrey police. The idea that they've got these fake joggers, if you wolf whistle after one of them, you will be arrested. You'll be stopped. Let's just be clear. The purpose of that is to even up the numbers. The police in Surrey have recognised that there are too many people from the migrant community, too many refugees being caught as perverts, so they need to find people to accuse of these sorts of offences who are British, in order to say it's not just the refugees that are doing it. I find that despicable because, first of all, the police are lying. Surrey police are lying. Secondly, the purpose of this is to disguise the wrongdoing of the migrants. And thirdly, you are attempting to criminalise a group of people who you know to be innocent in order to get the numbers. It's exactly the same as Neil pursuing.
And fourthly, those two police women could actually be going in areas where there are actual gropings. I mean, it's not obviously right to have that, but if they had policemen with them, where they could actually, this wouldn't be non-crimes, this would be crimes.
No, if they are acting as baits, they should go to the areas where the crime exists.
Exactly,
they will
that's
not
what I'm
do
saying.
That.
Yeah.
They will not do that.
I mean, you make the good point there that what's so ridiculous about this scheme is that they are using these 2 female police officers, or however many it is, as bait so that they can be harassed more, so more women can be harassed in the name of stopping harassment.
Yes.
And they all say, well, it's about increasing trust in the police. Well, I don't think anyone, most sensible people, I'm sorry, watch that video and think, you know what, that's exactly what I want my police force to be doing, rather than why don't they just actually respond to when this is reported? And they all say, yes, but some women don't want, because they don't trust the police and they don't report them. Well, just start responding to them.
But it's not illegal anyway, and their view was, oh, it might lead on to this.
I know, and I agree,
it was
and
made
that's
up.
the other
That was
aspect.
made up.
But to appeal to the people who are concerned about this, who do think it's harassment, why on earth would you then use that strategy to taking more police officers off the street, using them as bait so that they can be harassed in the name of stopping it?
I would trust the Surrey police if it wasn't for what Neil Basu did when he was at the Met, which was, and I've given this example a billion times, so apologies for being repetitious, National Action, the dangerous far-right terrorist group, got drunk in the Friar Penketh Weatherspoons in Warrington, you know, that pinnacle of terrorist activity. And basically, they got drunk and discussed which Labour MPs they'd like to kill. Now, I have to say to you, they shouldn't have done that. But the point that Neil Basu continually made was, well, I'm as concerned about far-right terrorism as I am about Islamic terrorism. Are you really? Because I'm afraid making a bomb and getting drunk in a Weatherspoons are 2 very different things as far as I'm... But what Neil Basu was doing, as far as I could see, was making up the numbers so he could say far-right thuggery is growing more quickly than Islamic fundamentalism. And it's exactly the same with free speech. And this case with the Surrey police. Let's get as many British people as possible into trouble so we can pretend there is no problem with the refugees. Skew the figures.
I couldn't possibly comment on whether that's their motivation. I just...
Look at her face. Look at her face. That was a very Francis Urquhart moment. Before we go to the break and before we ask you... I'm sorry. About to say, before we ask you to leave, before we say that you can leave,
before we throw you out of the studio,
we always like to get an update from the Free Speech Union on how things are going. We always say we advise people to join the Free Speech Union on this show, and it's not just because we're members, it's because we genuinely think it protects people. So it's freespeechunion.org, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how are things going?
So, I mean, well, it's kind of weird answering this question because on one hand you can say, well, business is great, but actually that kind of means that we're in a bad situation. Yes. But one of our most recent cases that is public, and we are very, very grateful for any donations. It's the crowdfunder for David Toshak, who is the Scottish Army veteran who was training to become a police custody officer and in Scotland. And the company is called GeoAmy, and they are contracted by the government to employ people. And he was coming towards the end of the 6-week training course to then qualify to become the police custody officer. In a safeguarding session, he was asked, would you call a male prisoner, or basically would you, the question they probably asked was, would you use she, her pronouns for a trans woman? By that they mean, would you refer to a man who says he's a woman as a woman? And he said that he wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. He was sent out of the room in front, so it's like a school, like a classroom.
Oh my God.
Out in front of everyone else, like he was a naughty school child, sent out of the room and then had to wait outside, and then he was taken into a meeting, and within half an hour he was sacked on the spot. He was told that his strong views were incompatible.
Strong views.
His strong views were incompatible not only with their policy but with the law. I don't.
This was after the Supreme Court ruling, was it?
Well, they shouldn't have been since 2021 when Maya Forstater won her case. It's illegal to do this.
My favourite one was we introduced a trans woman one day, and she accused us of using voice-altering equipment to make her sound like a man.
Yeah.
I wonder why she sounded like a man.
Like that share record.
By the way, I want to thank Connie Shaw from the Free Speech Union. Just to be clear, I did use some bad language earlier in the show. That was to illustrate what these people were saying when they're being interviewed about why they feel it's appropriate to grope 12-year-old girls.
They didn't mean it.
More next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is a late show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. We're just about 10 minutes away from our first ever iteration of whale watching, which is every single week on a Friday as a kind of memorial to James Whale. We're not going to put up a statue quite yet, but we are going to have a memorial to James Whale in the way that he would have wanted it, which is to show some of his rudest.
And tonight's is a great classic. It's the Tony Topping alien artist.
That's my art.
Interview.
That's my art.
So he's a UFO expert and he's a temperamental artist, and together it turns into chaos. You've probably all seen the clips, but this is the whole unedited interview, which isn't much longer.
Yeah, so we've got hundreds and hundreds. Well,
that's my art. You're mocking there. That's my art.
We've got thousands.
You are my hero, James Whale.
We've got thousands of James Whale clips. We're going to go through all of them, and when we finish, we're just going to start.
We're going to loop it and play backwards.
Yeah, that's right.
No, but it's endless anyway. There's,
that's
30
right.
years. It's endless.
I mean, fairly obviously, I just want to say a couple of weeks out, thank you so much for all the support you've given. We can't keep thanking people enough. We'll never be able to thank everybody. And also to the people, I don't know about you, who've just randomly walked up to you in the street and said, I've had people asking after you just in the street.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really nice. He affected a lot of people in all spheres of life.
And I've got to be honest with you, I know this is... I used to be an altar boy at funerals. I'm looking forward to his funeral simply because I think...
You're not going to wear your altar boy clothes.
I think it'll be such a great celebration of his life, and it's good. I know some people don't do this, but obviously it's happening next month, so there's a lot of time for the raw emotions to sort of calm down. Anyway, that's enough about James Whale because he'll be back in clip format in about 8 minutes. So, OK, let's go to Deborah in Oldham. Deborah, you're on Talk.
Hiya.
Hello.
All right, Deborah.
Hiya.
Hiya. Hiya.
What's happened to Christianity?
What is happening?
Don't know, man.
Oh, Christianity. I am not racist. I am not phobic in any time. But I'm just asking what has happened to Christianity.
Well, when do you think the rot set in? Because do you remember when they moved Songs of Praise from the Sunday evening to the afternoon with Aled Jones? I think that was quite... there's little pivot points, isn't there? But it's a watershed moment. But now, don't you think Christianity is actually becoming more popular again? It's hit the bottom and now it's coming back up.
I think that's right.
I hope so.
Do you go to church on a Sunday?
No, but I pray to God every night.
But it doesn't count as much until you go to the church, doesn't it?
Bonus points. Deborah, I got thrown out of Songs of Praise.
You just said bloody hell as well. I mean, you need to go and confess, what's going on,
I got thrown out of Songs of Praise.
Did you?
I did.
What for?
Oh, because you can't sing.
The staff at Songs of... My dad made me wear my school uniform for the recording at the Liverpool Cathedral.
You were 27 years old.
And it was a purple blazer, so I wasn't very happy about it. And the staff at Songs of Praise accused me of pulling rude faces at the camera when it was on me and asked me to leave.
Look, Deborah's got a point because 46% of this country is Church of England, and 10 years ago it was 59%. Where have they all gone, Deborah? Where have they all moved?
I don't know, darling. Do you know, I pray to God every night. And
but you don't go to church, Deborah. How often do you go to church in the year?
I don't go to church.
Whatever?
Because... I don't go to church because there's no bloody churches, is there?
That's right. By the way,
like dentists and police stations.
I forget when it was, but I think it's the Regency period when religious observance massively crashed, and then in the Victorian period it picked back up again because there was a general feeling that we'd walked away from our moral code. Deborah, I honestly think that people are starting to realise something that Vladimir Putin has said. Now, look, I don't like Vladimir Putin, but I think he made one good point, which was this. It's not true that you're going to end up in a multicultural society. One culture will win, another will lose. If you don't stand up and defend your own culture, it will be replaced. It won't be added to, it will be replaced. Deborah, do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, what I'm saying, I'm not racist, I'm not anything. I was married to a black man, yeah?
Yeah.
and he died about 3 years ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And, you know, I'm not racist.
Yeah, you've made that point.
Creed. You know, but...
It's cultures, isn't it? It's nothing to do with race. It's whether you fit in this country.
Okay, Deborah, I think we're going to leave it at that because she is not racist. We got that point a number of times. Roy in Hampshire. Roy, you're on talk.
Good evening, lads.
All right, yeah.
Listen, mate, I've got 2 points to bring up to you. Imagine if me and Ash had been outside a mosque firing a water pistol as they're going into their mosque. We'd have got lynched.
Yes.
If they'd have caught us, they'd have locked us up and thrown away the key. That's the first point.
Yeah.
My second
We're
point...
not going to be doing that, by the way, Roy.
No. Well,
it was hypothetical.
Fast these days, I'm getting too old. But my second point is, when these illegal immigrants, when we bring them ashore, apparently they're given a 30-minute medical. Why can't we get them in a room and have pamphlets drawn up to their language and tell them what the laws of the country are?
See, I do agree with that, Roy, but I have to say to you, there's a fairly fundamental problem when you are bringing people into a room going, welcome to Britain, please don't rape my children. Do you know what I mean? It says to me that these
people
are
come
people
with an
who
ideology that they put above your law, and no matter if they'll say, "Oh yeah, don't worry, we'll do that," they're not going to do that. They're going to follow their own ideology.
Roy, the front page of the Sun, where they're saying that guy pointing up to heaven. When you put your finger up and you're a Muslim, it means there's only one God, Allah. And when he's talking about not being stingy, God would want you to come to Britain. He's talking about jihad. He's not talking about spoofing benefits. He's not talking about pouncing off the system. He's talking about flooding the United Kingdom with people from the Islamic world to make Britain a Muslim country. That's what he's talking about.
Well, that is part of the jihad, is claiming the benefits and weakening your enemy.
Yeah, but they should still be told the rules.
Rules
of the country.
But they still ignore them.
I think they are. I think there is an effort to tell them that. But the big problem is we've got horribly confused from day one, Roy. These people are economic migrants at best, right? At best. We are treating them like refugees, right? And we're in this ludicrous situation where we're judging whether they are appropriate to be refugees when they're seeking refuge from countries where there's no problem. What's that statistic? 75% of people who claim asylum in the United Kingdom return to the country that they have escaped within 18 months for a holiday. Once they've got their passport. They go on holiday back. And by the way, that statistic is nonsense. Those people who were in Sudan, I guarantee you what they did. They came to Britain, they claimed the passport, they claimed the house, and then moved back to Sudan or Somalia or wherever it was, forget which one. But I will tell you, the East End is full of council flats being sublet by people who live back in their country of origin. They've got the passport, they're claiming benefits, and they're renting out the house. It's a bonanza.
Yeah, you're right. Just one other point.
Yes.
Andre.
Yeah.
You've taken over from old James. I miss him. I miss seeing his old mug on there, boy. You've got a hard act to follow. But do me a favour, mate. Smarten yourself up a bit.
Well, you don't like the rugby shirt.
It's not that. What you had on the other day, mate. I'll tell you what. If there was a poll, the scruffiest man in England, I think you'd have come in the first place.
How dare you? How very dare you?
It's normally said to me. I feel quite good now.
You even make Ash look smart these days.
By the way, in 5 minutes, you can see James Whale's face. We're going to play a long clip of him. The whole section of.
I'm looking forward to that.
I've got to be honest with you. In comparing me with James Whale, if the only thing you can say is I'm scruffy, I think I may have dodged a bullet. But no, do you know what I've started doing? I've started leaving stuff in the office so I don't have to fight through the tube and then because you actually iron your stuff here, don't you?
Well, I have to. Only the front. The front
Only
is
the front.
If you see the rest, but
Ironing,
look at that, smooth as a baby's bottom.
If you're wearing a jacket, ironing the sides and the back is madness of your shirts.
Waste of time.
It's madness.
Think about the environment.
Madness. Thank you so much, Roy. OK, coming up in the next hour, we're going to have Danielle Nichols on, who is going to...
and they all get northern, don't they, when they're together? Talk about...
Do you think we sound
like
northern?
cakes and cobbled streets, sparking clubs and factory.
That knows.
Aye.
OK, and we've got the Weekly Whale, the first the first Whale Watch episode where we're going to watch him have a go at Tony Topping, which we're really looking forward to. Danielle is waving and sticking her tongue out. What is that about?
That's harassment.
No, she's like Miley Cyrus. I can
She is actually, isn't she? She's very much the British Miley Cyrus.
Okay, if you want to get in touch with us, it's 0344 499 1000. You can tweet at Virtual Ash.
And him at Andre JP Walker.
Right, I think you should keep talking until the break.
0344 499 1000. That's the two. But also WhatsApp message us on that number. You know, if you're scared to come on live, we'll do less than a minute, and it comes out in quality, and we'll put it out there. It's good to get these little answer machine messages. So, but most importantly, give us a ring. We'll ring you back. We've got a few calls, but we could always do with some more. And yeah, back with James Whale, a whole section of him of the Tony Topping interview in about a couple of minutes after your news.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People smuggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work.
It's crap. It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. Just in a couple of moments, we're going to be going through all of the front pages. But before then, we've got a new segment that I'm really, really looking forward to. Genuinely, it's something that, just to remind everyone, I came up with the idea of doing. Right? So let's nip that one in the bud of other people taking the credit. But Asher's going to introduce it.
Right. Well, this probably goes back about 3 years, and we used to get guests in, quite, special guests and that, with like UFO and conspiracy people. And this guy Tony Topping we got in, and it didn't end well because it ended up in a bit of a kerfuffle and sort of people. It was good, it was exciting, but basically he was an artist and he had links with aliens and he drew pictures, and basically, well, just watch it. It is what happened. It's unbelievable.
The first thing that happened to me was strange UFOs started coming in over my house, and I have
describe them to me.
Okay, so the first one, and it's been on British TV, it's been on this morning, and all that.
Just describe them to me, Tony.
So we've got the.
Otherwise, you'll be out.
Okay, so illuminating a TV antenna. It came in and illuminated a TV antenna. There was many lights on it, all that kind of thing.
Did other people see it in your room?
No, other people didn't see it, although a guy travelling in his car did. Now, a professor in Mexico has analysed this, and he would reckon that the object is discharging static across a TV antenna. There was another incident over a local beauty...
He's talking rubbish, Tony. I mean, this is fun.
Have you bothered to look at my material, James?
Tony,
Legend of my childhood.
You don't call me a legend. Don't think that'll get through.
No.
I thought that was the title of his book.
Legend.
Yeah. The fact is, you've not got any proof. You have not got any proof.
That's bollocks, James. That's total bollocks,
language,
mate.
Please, or you'll go.
Total
Language.
Bollocks.
Don't start on me on the show. It's my programme, and you'll go. So why on earth do you think these are real when it could be a car's headlight reflecting on a... How do you know?
We've had analysis done. I've had precise...
How do you mean you've had analysis done when you have no...
RAF. I've had a friend in the...
I've got a friend on a plane in the middle
James,
of...
if the interview's going to go like
how
this,
have you got...
why have you brought me here?
Because I want to find out. Answer the questions. I'm interviewing
answering your questions, but what you're doing is you're just coming back with, well, that's bollocks, that's not right.
Look, if you're going to carry on like that, I want to ask you questions to find out whether there could be any
I'm
relativity.
answering your questions.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
All you're doing is telling me what you say you've seen, but you've
That's
no
not
proof.
Correct. Well, you
what
haven't
proof?
even bothered, have you? You're a broadcaster who hasn't even looked at my material.
Have you got?
You haven't even bothered to look at my image analysis of... No,
what proof
look
have
at
you
me,
got?
James. Haven't you looked at my material?
What proof? There's no
have
proof.
you looked?
You said I've spoken to this man, I've spoken to that lady, I've spoken to that alien.
James, you're talking rubbish.
But no, I'm not. Where is the
you are.
proof? Where's the photograph to show me?
I've sent them all to your producer. He's got about 30 of them in emails.
Well, we
look
might
at
have
this,
put a few
look
up.
at that,
Are they
look at
worth
that.
showing? I don't know.
They are.
And how do I know they're true?
What do you mean, how do you know?
How do I know they're true? You think they're true. I want to know how you... Why do you think they're true when most people think you're talking rubbish?
I've had them analysed.
Who analysed it, though? I mean,
a friend of mine called Jason Gleaves, who's ex-RAF, and he's done comprehensive image analysis.
So that picture there, which looks like a childhood forged drawing...
I don't know what the hell that is, James, what they've put up there, because it's not the picture.
Okay, well, it's one of your
pictures.
It's
not correct.
Nice, I like those.
Well, those are the pictures you gave us.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, Ted, come here now.
These are even evidence.
This is your evidence.
This isn't even his evidence.
That's not your photo.
That's the wrong.
That's my ass.
That's the wrong.
What are you doing?
What's that then?
That's not evidence.
Yeah, but that's what you sent into it.
Hang on a minute.
Come on.
Just a minute, guys.
Is that not evidence?
That's proof enough for me.
Is that not? Is this
that's
not
proof enough for us, James?
Yeah.
Come on now.
Hang on. Is that evidence?
Yes, that is certainly evidence.
That is evidence.
That is certainly evidence.
And hang on, is that evidence?
That's evidence as well.
That is evidence.
That's all evidence for me.
Basically.
So this is all evidence.
All evidence for me.
Aliens
and that's
existing.
what matters. Whether you guys think it's bollocks or not, it doesn't matter.
If you don't stop that language, you will go. Right, okay, is that evidence too?
Yes, it is for me.
Lynn, good evening.
Yes, good evening, James.
You've got a question for Tony.
Well, no, not... Well, I haven't.
Well, if you haven't, why are you calling in?
Well,
she hasn't.
Bye. No, I'm not having that. What?
Story for you.
Oh, okay, sorry, Lynn, come back, bring her back.
Okay.
Sorry, Lynn, I beg your pardon.
Okay, James.
You're back in the room.
Thank you, dear. How are you, anyway?
We haven't got time, Lynn. We've got
all right.
packed
I know
program.
you, but I don't know the other fella.
Well, this one here.
Me?
Yeah.
Ash.
I have
Ash. At Virtual Ash on Twitter.
Yeah, Ash. Right. Now,
we've been a couple for 25 years.
Do you mean Tony Topping as well? Because he's here.
Legend
Tony Topping.
Tony Toppling, who's got a book out called Alien.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Well, very nice. Well, very nice.
So what's your experience with aliens?
Right, no, it's not... It was many years ago, I'll be quick, it was many years ago, and I'd gone to bed, and it was the morning of my birthday, it was the early hours of my birthday, and I woke up...
Hang on. This is the sort of thing we can talk about on the TV and
aliens
radio,
love birthdays.
Yes, of course.
I mean, no. Aliens also love sex.
And they never...
Well, it's not about an alien. I'm not talking about...
Okay, fine. It's about sex. Good, okay.
On your birthday.
Yeah. I remember what that was.
Press the button, yeah.
No, we want to hear it now.
And I woke up and I saw the bottom of what I thought was somebody's overcoat. Okay, somebody's overcoat. Right, don't start pressing your buttons yet. Somebody's out. And as I looked up, I looked up, there was something glittering. Okay, something glittering, and it looked like somebody's button. And as I looked up, my father was in the room. Now he wasn't as we are. He just filled the whole of the room. My father, not our father, my dad, yeah. And he filled the whole of the room. And I went, "Are you Dad?" And I leaned over and touched my husband on the shoulder and said, "Love, is me Dad." And when I turned back, he'd gone. But honestly. And now, I'm like you, James. If somebody said to me, "Oh, so," I say, "Oh, yeah, whatever. Get a life." You know what I mean?
Tony, what do you think this was?
I don't know what she's experienced, really.
Was it just a bad dream,
Was it just a bad dream, or is there some intrusion going on in our dreams that we can't comprehend?
It was me Dad. It couldn't have been a bad dream because it was me Dad.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was a spiritual experience you had.
Yeah.
But you say it filled the room, so it didn't look like your dad, but you just knew it was your dad. And what a spirit that...
So it could have been an alien taking on the...
No.
Listen.
Yeah.
It could have been an alien just taking on the shape of your dad, couldn't it?
When you're talking about that, James, you're getting into the areas of biblical and demonic there, where it could have been something demonic taking on the shape of a dad and looking like a dad. It's entirely possible.
Don't dabble in that.
You believe in that?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay, Lynn, thank you very much. Bye. So, do you believe then in a God figure?
Absolutely. A supreme intelligence driving the cosmos. Absolutely.
And so, why has this supreme intelligence made such a mess of it?
Well, that's a good question, James, because it's not the supreme intelligence that's made a mess of it. It's what occupies the planet that's made a mess of it.
But has he given you a mission?
Hang on. If there was a supreme whatever it was, then they would have controlled it, surely. But anyway, okay. So are these aliens that out there? Are they? Oh, hang on. We're going to put it up on the screen. Here's the evidence. Yeah.
That's him.
Now talk me through this evidence and tell me how this is evidence of aliens. I'm going to shut up. You do it.
Okay. On the morning of 2014, when I was these things have been coming over my house for a very long time.
Well, these people who look like this, because that could have been in Love Island.
And on the morning of the 2014, on that morning in particular. These things have been coming over for a number of years, these UFOs. And on that particular morning, I was awoken to a most spectacular vision with that man in the middle of it, revealing who they were behind the UFO phenomena. And he gave up a very bizarre doomsday warning. Some clocks went at 20 to 12, and the other there was two clocks. It was an amazing vision. I don't know whether the lads have got it, but it was an incredible vision that we've recreated precisely of two doomsday clocks, one at 10 to 12 and one at 5 to 12.
We've got the vision here.
Yeah. And I actually believe that was actually a warning. I really do. And it was very symbolic.
It's not proof.
And it was dynamic. Really was.
It's not proof.
But has it given you a mission? Have you given you a reason why you've been selected for this?
No, because as soon as you go down that avenue of has it given you a mission, have you been selected, you're on a narcissistic path there that's difficult to get out of.
But there must be some reason, or is it just a pure
I'm
accident?
trying to find that out, Ash, and I'll probably go to my grave not knowing the full reasons why. As I said at the beginning of the interview, I'm trying to find that out.
That's not it, is it?
No, that's not it. No, it's like a doomsday warning thing, James. I'm sorry, you might not have got it, mate, but it's like a doomsday warning. That's not it either, mate. No.
Oh.
No.
No, guys.
That's my art.
Oh, is it that one there?
No, that's a visual of the UFOs over my house. That's an actual visual analysis.
Can you see that? Two little white spots?
James, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not happy with the way the interview's going. I feel you are taking the mick out of me. You've been a legend of mine since my childhood.
You have no proof, do you?
It's not that I have no proof.
You come in here under false pretences.
No, James.
And when I ask you the hard questions...
What you've done when I walk through this door is you've just not listened.
Do you want to take another call?
I tell you what's causing me... No, I tell you what's causing me offence with you, and I'm being quite serious now. That art is my life's work. I will not have my life's works mocked by a media presenter. I'm walking out the door.
You can walk out the door. I couldn't care less.
No, exactly, James.
If you're telling me
I'm not here to convince you
to promote your book, I have given you time to come onto this
programme. But you haven't, have you? I mean, since the interview began, you've been... Since the interview began with me, you've been mocking me. You came in with my artwork, which I found most offensive, and you're sticking it up in front of the screen, making a mockery. Damn straight. Do you know what? I used to listen to you in my childhood. And when I was a little lad, James, I was so vilely abused. I used to listen to you because you gave me some sense from the world. Now you're a disappointment, mate.
They say never meet your hero. Never meet your hero.
Yeah, never meet your hero, Ash. You're a disappointment, James. I'm sorry. And you know what? You even think you sat there thinking you sat there now.
Cut him off.
No, you sat there now thinking. No, you sat there now thinking. No, I'm not making a fool of myself.
You are making a
fool of yourself.
Then I suggest you go.
Oh, I will be doing. Don't you worry.
We'll go now.
No, I'm not going.
Do you want to take a call? I'm going to take a call.
Right,
you shut up. Turn him off. Wayne, you're on the air.
Hi, you all right?
Yeah, Wayne, what's your question?
How are you, Ash?
I'm good.
Is that
We're
Wayne
good.
Hussey?
No. Yeah, my question to that guy on the we're talking about aliens. Well, two questions. One, hang on a minute. All the signals we send out into space are become nobody's contact us. And two, if there's any evidence, well, hang on a minute. Where's the actual proof? I mean, a few photos doesn't actually prove anything, does it? Really?
Proof. That's my work. You're insulting. That's my artwork.
It's proof. Sorry,
that's my artwork, James. You're insulting my artwork.
That's proof. You just told me that's
my
proof.
art. That's my art. Goodbye.
You said that was your proof. Good riddance. No, you're fine. You've got no answer.
You're a disgrace.
Bye-bye.
My point was
Ted, take him out.
Gone off on the wrong
Ted, take him out.
It's gone off on the wrong.
Ted, please just show him the door. Yeah. Just go. You had the chance. You could come in. You had the chance. You had the chance. You wanted it shown. Then go. Be very disappointed and go. No. You've how many more times? Good.
I'll leave it with you.
Good. You carry on.
Nice to meet you, man.
Goodbye.
Nice to meet you.
Honestly.
Beautiful, man.
Okay, Asher, I felt a bit bad then because somebody said to me he'd travelled 300 miles to go on that and James Whale was his hero. Yeah. However, it has also been pointed out he was plugging a book and that book apparently got some good sales off that.
Yeah, he sold 3 off that. I mean, nearly paid for his train ticket.
What amazes me, though...
Turns out he was right, though. It was true. They were alien drawings.
Funny enough, we were talking to... And Danielle Nichols is here, but we were talking a little bit about James Whale, right, and the fact that his funeral is in an actual church. And people have said... I'll just repeat what we said to each other whilst Tony was on. The thing is about James Whale, right... People say, he was against this or in favour of that. In reality, he just enjoyed debating people on the radio. So if he criticised, say, the Church of England, it will have been because on that particular day, the Church of England will have been doing something that was stupid. Yeah. Right? It wouldn't have been that he had some long-running...
Well, his brother his younger brother was like a priest almost, wasn't he? His brother is. And, he was very spiritual. I think he was just always questioning things. We always used to have these alien people on and these older civilisations. So he was always had that sort of interest.
Well, I wanted to come back on here, Mr. Because Mr. Walker there accused me of not being able to communicate with James Whale after he passed. No.
Oh, yeah,
I have
it's
come
the
back.
new Derek Acora.
The week he died. Although I will say, and the producers keep telling me off for this. Right, the one thing that amazed me about James Whale dying was the number of best friends he had, the number of people he mentored, the number of people who he spoke to on a daily basis.
I know. I never claimed to be his best friend.
No, you did.
But you knew him a lot better than a lot of these people.
You did work with him. My favourite thing was one of the producers casually said to me the other day, the good thing about the people who got Lizzie Cundy and Ash Gould on their show is they could actually say something about him, because the number of people when they went, what was James like in private, and these celebrities didn't know the answer.
No,
that's crazy, isn't it? I tell you what, it was always called in politics claiming the dead, like Derek Trotter, where he'd always say, as Mum said on her deathbed. That's what people do. They all go, the number of people who you were saying this, we're not going to name names, but you said, he couldn't stand James Whale. James Whale hated her. And all these people just on the telly going,
Well, I was the same because I said to you, I don't know if secretly how he felt about it.
A lot of people
But when I was
think they
around
didn't
him,
like Kev, you know, they used to have these arguments, but actually they respected each
Oh,
other.
no,
and
no,
actually
he
were good
liked
mates,
Kevin.
you know what I mean?
But
A lot of people he'd argue with, the next meeter, the next time they met, it was, you know what I mean? It was all a bit of an act, you know what I mean?
That wasn't the nature of James Whale, was it? Because I remember when when Brexit happened, or when we voted to leave the EU, I used to come on and he used to give me a right going over about it, because at that point he was very pro-European, or argued in that direction, and I thought I'd fallen out with him. Well, little down, no, he didn't. He wasn't bothered.
No,
he just wanted to have his argument or his debate, and that was the end of it.
Yeah. Well, I said to you, didn't I, that I felt like he was with me because of the relationship we had, which was purely work-based.
Yeah,
there wasn't any other relationship. It was just a working relationship. But the weird thing is, on the way here today, I had a podcast on, right? This, you can Google this. Dr. Tara Swart is a very highly acclaimed neuroscientist and psychologist. She's got a lot more to her name than that, but essentially that,
This
right?
is like Tony
She's
Every week she
claiming...
comes in with a link of why James Whale's contacting
She's
her.
claiming...
Let's hear this tenuous link.
Yeah, she's claiming that we can communicate with loved ones after they die. She's 100%
And it just came on
certain of
accidentally?
it. No, so she had a very, very tragic story.
No, I know, but your podcast came
Oh,
on.
yeah, no, the podcast. I picked the podcast because I love a good podcast, as you well know, because I do a million hours of driving.
Danielle gave me a lift to my dad's the other week after the show, and I have to say it was fascinating listening to some very long podcast all the way back.
Yeah, just weird stuff. I know. We were listening about midwives in the NHS, weren't we, on the way back?
That woman talking about how midwives have been destroyed and how the NHS has been so damaging.
She had a good case,
We've got to go to a little breaky, but we'll be right back in 2 minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. Just to say to you that there is that important meeting between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump in Anchorage, Alaska, which is interesting. Used to be part of Russian territory. Obviously, the Tsarist regime sold it to the United States of America. For those of you, we can see the podiums there where Putin and Trump will speak.
It's going to be a press conference.
Earlier today, Donald Trump said that there was only a 25% chance of a major agreement being made, but there will be some steps forward. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go to Danielle Nichols, who's going to tell us a little bit about her tenuous story of communicating with the dead, and at some point we're going to cut her off and go to Donald Trump.
Of course you are.
Is that fair?
Of course you are. You
That's
find
fair.
it harder
We won't
to make
even
fun.
tell her. She'll probably keep going and we'll just be playing the video.
You find it a lot easier to make fun of me when I'm not here in the studio.
Because
Notice
you can
that.
hit him now, can't you?
I know I can, and he doesn't like
And
it.
you're giving him a lift.
No, she's not tonight.
I'm not this time.
Right, so sorry. So you're communicating with the dead
so
now.
I said to you, Adna, let's make the story quite as brief as we can. Basically, I found out that James had died through Chuck. Chuck's post, I think it was. And it was about an hour or so after it happened, that I got a phone call about a really basically Good Morning Britain wanted me on the show, and I'd not been booked on Good Morning Britain for nearly 6 months at that point, which I'd not done anything wrong, but I'd just not been getting the phone calls, and I was like, oh, you know, am I doing the right thing? And the reason it coincided with James is because the only reason I knew James is by him giving me an opportunity on his show when nobody else would give me an opportunity. I was trying to get back into the industry. I was told I was too old, and what was I wasting my time for? And James gave me that opportunity. So it was just odd to me that I would get that opportunity after. Like, oh, of course, everything's a coincidence. You know, at some point, something's going to be a coincidence. In fact, if there are no coincidences, that's more unlikely.
Daniel, I fear that your hair is touching the microphone.
So basically, you're saying that James Wales went up to the pearly gates and he said, the first thing I want is Danielle Nichols to be on Good Morning Britain.
No. That's not what I think happened.
What she's now going to say, and I think you should do it in James's voice, it's what he would have wanted. It's what she would have wanted.
No,
he was
I
like
just
that
believe...
though, with people. He'd help people out.
He was like that with people. He was like that.
Very much
he wasn't, and I think that was why, as an energy, as a broadcaster, that's why he did so well.
He enjoyed doing that.
Well, you meet a lot of people. You know this. You meet a lot of people who can't wait to shut you up, who find you a threat.
James Whale himself.
Yeah. Well,
shut up, Ash. But
he always wanted to lift people up. He wanted to help people.
You and I have been slightly told off about the James Whale thing, because we've been continually saying to people, oh, we weren't that close to him, we weren't whatever. But actually, in reality, we did work with him very, very closely. But my feeling was I never wanted to overshadow Asher, who'd worked with him for 30 years.
Look, the guy invited me to his house he said, do come by, come and see me when you're in Kent. Now, it was probably being polite, but the point is, I think you know someone pretty well if they're going to say, do come on by. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I just feel like, and then just to be even more strange, I've come across this podcast. Please Google it, guys, because it's very interesting. She's been very outspoken, and it's very brave of her because she says it goes against everything that she understands, especially as a psychiatrist, psychologist. She basically said she kind of hears the voice, not the voice as in, but a voice that is not hers. That is actually a sign of schizophrenia, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, to hear voices that are not your own inner monologue voice.
But it can be
you
a
see
symptom
what I mean?
of it. Yeah, certainly.
And so she's been really brave in being in putting herself, but she's waited 4 years and kind of been on this journey. But remember when I said to you, when we met very early on and we talked about your mum passing, and because you are you play a good game, you're as bad as James, you don't really mean it, but you talked about your mum passing, we talked about when I had an experience seeing my daughter and my daughter died.
Yes.
I don't care whether anybody else, I don't, as like that guy, the alien guy who got so upset, like, I don't care if you don't believe me.
If you truly believe it, you wouldn't get upset.
I think you'd be very foolish to completely rule this stuff out.
Yes.
I mean, if you think about it, if you look at people who are like atheists or whatever, what they're saying is, they're basically saying, look, in the absence of hard evidence, I'm not willing to believe it. They're not actually saying, I'm definitely saying that this isn't true.
Well, yeah, and you know what else she said, which was really interesting? She said, the thing we do with science is we're always supposed to be asking questions. Could that be possible? Is there a chance of that? That's the very nature of being a scientist. However, when it comes to anything to do with life after death or communicating or anything like that, it's frowned upon. But she said, but why?
But actually, science is now answering these questions, quantum physics and that, and they're saying, it's like a video game, a simulation. There's a double slit experiment, which only changes when someone's observing it. So yeah, I did say double slit. It's a scientific term. So there's all this coming out now, and I think maybe we're basically a simulation. We might be a Netflix sort of streaming
service. Well, I have to say to you, and we were talking about this during the break, there is nothing in the Bible, there is nothing in the Quran, there is nothing in the Torah that prohibits this literally being a simulation and God being a guy who booted up a computer. There is nothing.
There's a bit of a movement for that at the moment.
And also, can I tell you why? Can I tell you why I would be happy if it was a simulation? Because it would mean that heaven definitely exists.
Yeah.
Because and you would meet your dead relatives, wouldn't you?
Not necessarily.
Do you know what she said? A really telling thing. She said, and this is what I'm sure I'm assuming, but I know it was in COVID, so maybe it wasn't quite the same. But when you lose someone very close to you, she said she looked at her husband's body and everything in her told her that he was no longer within that body.
Yes.
I had the exact same experience. I took care of her body, as in, I had respect for it, but I didn't feel that that's where my little girl was.
Exactly.
Yes.
Once
she'd left that vehicle.
She'd left it.
The vehicle, yeah.
And I think you'd be hard pressed to deny.
One thing that everybody agrees is that whatever life is has exited the body.
Yes.
At that point, at the point of death. I mean, the point I make, and obviously the only person really truly close to me that's died is my mum. The point we always make is, I mean, she's. I don't mean to make a joke of it. She's effectively buried at the bottom of the garden because my dad lives on a church estate. So the graveyard is over the.
Could you be with her because of COVID when she died, or could you not?
Well, we wouldn't anyway. She had lung cancer, you see, so it would have been a bad thing. So I got to visit her the day before she died, but that was it.
Okay.
Did you have to wear a hazmat suit or whatever?
Can I be honest with you? They told us to wear it. We took it off because by that point there was really no point, and also you know sort of like that. But I mean, whilst having my mum's grave at the end of the garden is fantastic because you can visit it quite regularly. We believe it's a memorial rather than actually being there.
Yes.
We don't believe she's actually there.
Yeah, and I remember someone asking me, was I going to bury my daughter? And I said I couldn't think of a more haunting picture than a baby being in a cemetery. So no,
even seeing
she's not going to be there. She's, you know what I mean, her ashes are coming with us so that she can be in our home.
And you feel her around you all the time.
I've seen her. I experienced
you said that your daughter, you said one of your other children had claimed to see a child playing.
Yes.
Explain that story again.
So
I've forgotten.
It was late one night. The child was sleeping in the bedroom that she slept in, and wasn't getting good night's sleep. They were only a toddler, just about good enough to talk. And I said, you've got to stay in your own bed, you know how to do, because they keep coming in your room. And it was my son, and he said, Mummy, I don't like sleeping in that bedroom because of the little girl that keeps me up all night. Now, that's out of the mouths of babes. Like, that wasn't planted there. Nobody said that. No. Nobody put that there. And I was a bit freaked. I was a bit spooked.
And the child could not possibly know that his deceased elderly sibling
could not possibly know.
He could not possibly know that.
He would have been 2 when she died. So, and he was, like I say, he was about 3 at this point, just barely able to talk. He said, that little girl that plays in the bedroom keeps me away.
I've seen kids that are like 2 1-year-olds who were taken to graveyards to see tragically if their father had died, and suddenly you see the baby waving at their grave, and the mother's going, who are you waving at? It's like there's a spirit.
Oh, yeah.
That's
they know.
Because they're more open. It's like dogs and babies, they're more open.
Well,
to
this
things,
lady reckons that this guy that interviewed her said, are you 100%? She said, 100%. He said, can you prove it? She went, I'll tell you what, you can't disprove it. So she said, you know, it's difficult to prove it, but she said, when I give you this evidence, you will struggle to disprove it.
Yes.
And there's also new scientific theories are saying theory of evolution doesn't answer enough. It's a tweaker of biology, but it doesn't explain how there's such a variety, even billions of years, wouldn't result in what's on Earth.
She speaks about how, you know what, they found out that the trees are all connected, aren't they, by fungus, and how fungus can take different forms and different shapes to allow...
the root system.
Yeah, and how it can...
They communicate with each other.
Yeah, and she talks about how there's kind of a sacrifice, some of the cells are sacrificed in order to produce, say, a mushroom, and then the spores are sent off into... But she said, but if you look at it's not just like the evidence that is there that everything is cyclical. It's always... It's
I'll tell you what's going to be really interesting. We are going to go to the calls, but we'll go to a break first. But what's going to be really interesting is that with the use of AI, with the use of recordings and whatever, we're becoming increasingly good at having conversations with animals. So they think that the first conversations between humans and dolphins are taking place, and we're starting to map out the dolphin language.
Right.
And it'll be quite interesting. So obviously we don't know how sophisticated the language may be. It might be basically come over here, go over there, or whatever. But it will be fascinating when we are able to have full conversations. Let's go to the break. We may be coming back to Putin and Trump, or we may be coming back to calls. Depends on what happens in Anchorage. Back in a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, so let's go to let's go to the phone calls. I do apologise. This is Yasmin, the teenage witch. Yasmin, you're through to Talk.
Hiya, darling.
Hello, Yasmin. How are you, my lovely?
I'm fine, thank you, sweetie.
Good.
Just a quick call tonight because of other things. But, Danielle, last time we were talking, you were saying about your erotic experiences.
Yes.
And energy and about knocking. Now, I need to explain something to you very quickly.
Okay.
If somebody's knocking and you open the door, that means they're not meant to be there anyway, because angels can go anywhere without knocking.
Okay.
If somebody's calling your name out, that means they're not supposed to be there, because angels show the presence internally with the feeling of love and protection.
What about when they touch you?
Well, I've had that as well. And the thing is, if you are asleep and a spirit touches you, then it's violating your energy.
Okay.
And
they're all
You
the
get that
things
all the
I
time,
have.
don't you?
Yeah.
And also, the other thing about it, using the energy of your mind and whatever to bring on an erotic experience, it's violating the norms of spirit to human communication.
But I have to be honest, though, I like it.
Anybody in the house it can go to. It doesn't have to stay with just you. And the other thing is, if it's a spirit that's jealous and it doesn't want you with anybody else, it can cause issues with you and your partner.
But hold on, Yasmin, she says she likes it, so what's the problem?
Let me explain.
Okay.
Liking it on a physical energy sense is normal because she's human and it's touching her erogenous zones. That's fine. Liking it is a physical sense, but on a spiritual sense, it's violating her.
Okay, so I have to say no.
No, you can like it, but go, ooh, stop it.
Remember what I said? You call in your guardian angels, Archangel Michael, and ask for protection and shielding from any negative forces. Whether they give you good feelings, good vibes or not, if you can't see them, they come when you're asleep, you're being violated, darling.
What, can I ask you this? What about leaving your body when you sleep?
Let me explain. On the astral
I'm
level,
a bit of a weirdo, me, aren't I?
No, you're not. On the astral,
No, she is,
on the astral level, there's different levels. Like when I look at you, darling, I hear the song "Cosmic Girl," so I know you go to different planets and different realities.
Is that Jamiroquai? Was it?
Yeah.
Cosmic Girl.
Cosmic Girl?
Yeah, that's what you remind me of. Your energy's that. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
And when I look at Andre, the music I get for him tonight.
Do you think he's a ginger? Sorry,
No,
what?
I get whiskey in the jarro.
Whiskey in the jar, not whiskey in the gyro. Whiskey in the gyro would be all.
Is that an Irish song?
There's whiskey in the jar.
Phil Lynott, isn't it? Was it Phil Lynott? Was it?
It's like a folk
Yeah,
song.
and when I see her,
Deep Purple, was it?
I see Led Zeppelin and a whole lot of love.
Oh, he is very loving.
That's the top of the
Got
Pops
a
theme
very
tune.
powerful sexual vibe.
Yes, he is sexy, isn't he?
My
is.
favourite is Led Zeppelin
You
Cashmere.
are sexy. In a complimentary, I'm married kind of way. But your energy is.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
And the
great.
other
I'll take that, yeah.
And the other thing is, I do like Andre in his rugby shirt.
Oh, what? No, he looks like a...
It looks like, it reminds me of Bill Beaumont on A Question of
stop
Sport.
it. I didn't like the T-shirt that
I
he
look
had
like Tim
ironed.
Nice but dim.
Quite
Yeah.
remarkable.
I look like Tim Nice but
And
dim.
then especially with the big ginger quiff.
It's not a big ginger
It's,
quiff.
It's a big ginger
Morrissey,
quiff.
isn't it? Morrissey.
Is he ginger? We should do a poll. Is he ginger?
He'd have to strip off, wouldn't he?
Oh!
Yeah, there's only one way. What, collars and cuffs?
I'm not against that. I'm not against that.
Everyone else is.
What I also want to say is this is really important. Andre, I think you're being too soft on immigrants when you talk about people from different cultures coming to this country and not knowing our culture, I think it's very... I don't think you're getting it.
I've got to be honest with you. Yeah, she thinks I'm a dangerous left-winger when it comes to immigration.
Does she?
Yeah.
Please,
There's nothing left-wing about you.
I'm a moderate.
You are a Tory if ever I knew one.
I'm a moderate.
Let me just tell you,
It's the Owen Jones of talkTV.
You're not gay, right? You're not gay. You don't understand. You're not gay. Do you remember that? Do you remember that with Julia Hartley-Brewer? It's superb.
No.
So Jasmine, let me just remind you. What happened was there was an incident where somebody.
Wait. Yasmin has something she desperately needs to tell you before Trump and Putin speak. Go on.
My auntie was murdered by my uncle. He did 25 years in prison, right?
Oh.
She had young children and she was murdered. And he was a Muslim, right? Now, let me tell you something that you don't realise is they all know that it is wrong to touch a woman. If they did it in the countries they came from, they would be beheaded. Completely beheaded. So don't tell me that don't know the rules of not touching women or children. It is absolutely asinine to say that. My auntie was murdered, right, on New Year's Eve in 1983. My uncle did 25 years without parole. He showed no remorse. And he's dead now, she's dead now. But what I'm saying is, and this is the straight truth, right, I come from a family where there's been a lot of things happen, like one of them did manslaughter or whatever on another person. But what I'm saying is, when you say they don't know the culture of this country, they have come from countries where the culture is literally, if you look at a woman, touch a woman, look at a child, touch a child, you are beheaded on a Friday afternoon.
Often the woman will be punished as well, won't they? That's the thing.
Will they?
Yeah.
The woman as well.
The woman, if a woman gets raped in certain cultures, they will be punished and blamed for it.
Love, I'm telling you, they get beheaded, the men get beheaded.
Yeah, but the women get punished.
Yeah, the point I was making is
No. Let me explain. As
right,
a woman
we've got it now. The point is, I was making the point. The way they dress, people believe that they have a right to behave in that way because of it.
You're giving excuses.
I'm not giving excuses. I'm saying they shouldn't be here. I mean, I don't know what more I can say than that.
Well, personally, what I believe is it's the globalist agenda to flood every European country with
I agree with that.
Because what they want to do is water down the strength of the British English people.
I think you might be onto something there, yeah.
Also, Keir Starmer wants to cause a war and get all our lads and girls over fighting a war, leaving us vulnerable with loads of migrants in this country. And
that sounds terrifying.
Well, they're Marxists, aren't they? They want to bring down the systems. That is basically what's happening, and we're seeing it across all countries.
Let me explain. The British in the whole of Europe are the only ones who ever stand up to stop things. Every other country acquiesces to things. We don't.
By the way, the Dubliners did whiskey in the jar. The Dubliners originally.
But you're a whole lot of lover.
Then Thin Lizzy and Metallica.
Thin Lizzy.
Thanks, Yasmin. And that was Phil Line.
Thank you,
by the way, sorry, just to explain the Owen Jones, you don't understand because you're not gay. Right?
Okay.
What happened was there was a very, very tragic incident where an immigrant into the United States of America had machine gunned a gay club in America.
Right.
He'd come from the Islamic world and he'd literally just opened fire shouting Allah Akbar. And Owen Jones was attempting to advance the argument that the reason it had happened was not because of uncontrolled immigration from the Islamic world, it was because of the general homophobia of the United States of America. And Hartley-Brewer was trying to gently make the point that she believed it might be something to do with the fact that he came from a homophobic Islamic country. And Owen Jones just lost it and just started going, you don't understand because you're not gay, right? You don't understand. And then walked out of Sky News, right? But basically, as somebody said later, the reason he kicked off was because he was so upset that his support for uncontrolled immigration had led to a terrorist attack. It's a reality. It's reality. All right, shall we go to a break?
Yeah, let's go to a break and gather ourselves. 03444991000. Hopefully the Trump-Putin press conference live from Alaska coming up shortly, and we'll break in and show you that. But in the meantime, listen to these messages.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the Late Show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Danielle Nichols. We're still looking at a couple of empty podiums from Anchorage in Alaska. Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump have not taken to the stage. To be fair, the producers think they're going to arrive imminently. That may well not be the case. So we don't know. If they are on before 1 a.m, then we will try and bring you some of the coverage of it. But anyway, what have you spotted on the front page?
Well, the first thing, let's start with the Soar Away Sun. And it says, throne sweet home, and Prince William is moving his family to a forever home in a bid to build happy memories after 3 tough years. 8-bedroom forest lodge nestled in Windsor Great Park is where William, Kate,
it must
and
be
children
hard
George
living in an 8-bedroom
Exactly.
house.
Insiders say they are hoping for a fresh start after a difficult time at Adelaide Cottage, during which Queen Elizabeth died and Kate and Charles were diagnosed with cancer. The Waleses will have no live-in staff and are funding all renovations and rent costs themselves.
They will have no living
servant.
No, they haven't. They haven't had any since they got married.
Very vulgar.
No, so they don't live
They don't
there.
live there. Now, just to be
I just thought that then.
Just to be very clear on one thing.
I think that's good though. Then at night time, they're just a
servants won't
family
be
on
there.
their own.
The actual, I think the more important detail is they like to cook their own dinner for the kids. Which I think, it's not is it?
No, you know what? No, you've got to remember, I know, it does seem weird. A little part of me does think it's weird that two people, just because they were born, it makes them special. No, I get that. But I do like these two. And I think everybody else likes them a bit. Even though they're different because they're special, there's a feeling of normality about them.
Yeah, but
I think this detail
woke, isn't he? A bit woke though, isn't he? Do
you think he's a bit woke?
Well, he's a bit like getting involved in politics.
Yeah, but you'd be woke if you'd had your bottom wiped since the minute you were born.
I don't think they actually wipe his bum. Although they used to.
Did they?
Do you know the
groom of the stool?
The groom of the stool.
It was the most prized job to wipe the king's bottom.
So that's why there's a saying that. No, I shouldn't say it, should I?
Yeah, go on.
But like my mum used to say, who do you think I am? Wipe your own ass. Did not heard your mum say that?
You've said it twice now.
Did your mum have to say that to you?
You've said it twice.
But you should have said it's a great honour
Just by going, great honour. Doesn't mean people don't.
It's a bit like going vagina.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What was it? Was it? Oh, Les Dawson. She was. Oh, what was she? I have to say to you, my question is, how many houses have they got in that?
8 bedrooms.
To be fair, I think that. So are they going? Is it going back to? No, because didn't they? When they first got married, they were in Anglesey, weren't they?
Yes.
Is that right?
So basically, it's
my dad saw her at a craft fair.
So
can you believe that?
So basically,
she was there. Which obviously she had like people who were in disguise. But my dad said I saw her at a craft fair. Like,
if you imagine, if you go into Central Windsor, that's Lower Ward, and that's the bit where the public can go into. Basically, there's then an entire village on the other side of and obviously that's where the Duke of York lives. Prince Andrew, well away from it's not where I live. Not where I live. I live quite near.
Oh, do you?
I live nearby.
Yeah. He lives near the Royals.
Yeah.
Not with the Royals, but near the Royals.
Right, the Times on Saturday. Peace in their hands, and there is Trump.
This is what we're waiting for.
Putin, and we're waiting for live. If they come out now, we'll go to it. Basically, President Trump and Putin shared a handshake, warm smiles, and an animated private conversation as they rode alone together in the US presidential limousine after a coordinated red carpet arrival.
I think that's a slightly dishonest photo.
Right.
They did shake hands. In the photo, it makes it look like Putin's just looking at the hand of peace and just ignoring it, but that's not really what happened.
Yeah, that's unfair, really.
He is checking his hand for something now, isn't he? It's almost like he's so suspicious because he's former KGB. He's thinking, what's he got on his hand?
I'm not going to deny, though, that is one. I don't really like. He's not my guy, Trump, but I do like the fact that he does seem to see everything like it's a business deal that needs sorting out.
Do you know the other thing I like about him? He goes and does it himself. Do you know when he went to see Kim Jong-un?
Well, it's a good job that Biden didn't.
Yeah, that's right. Do you remember when Biden lost the front door?
He'd go to South Korea, wouldn't he? He'd go to the wrong one.
Do you remember when Biden lost the front door of the White House? He couldn't find it that time. My favourite, I said this, what they should have done with Joe Biden is simply said he was the president of France and just stuck him on a plane. Because he'd have believed it, wouldn't he?
But the thing is with Trump, yes, he's vulgar and everything, but he gets the job done. And my theory is if you got all the Americans and mixed them into one person, you come up with Donald Trump.
I have to say, whatever you think about him, it is nice, especially with our current leader, to see someone who's got a bit of oomph about him.
Yeah.
Like a bit of something, even if you don't like it, at least he's got something to
But he is actually a real, like you look at Obama or Blair and you think they're just like a bit... They'll kill people, you know what I mean, with a smile.
But I kind of like
does call off raids.
Well. What does that say about
I remember he sent a jet over and they were going to kill this Iranian general and he asked how many innocents would be killed. They said 150 and he called it off. Obama and Blair wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, it looks like it might be happening this conference.
My favourite was it Asher or Chuck who told me earlier, I can't remember, when they said that Putin's plane landed and Trump had flown over as a strategic nuclear bomber to be in the background, just flying past. It's unbelievable.
Oh, there's definitely something happening. People are standing up.
The big problem is they'll have everybody ready for hours in advance. This may not happen before 1 a.m.
You not think so?
Like a Michael Jackson concert.
Absolutely.
Right,
by the way, the Daily Mail, look how red Trump is.
Oh.
Yeah, but they often, the newspapers...
That looks
if they don't
a
like
little
them,
blood pressure.
Yeah, but they might have changed the colour in the fact they found out CNN were making him orange on their TV, rather than he wasn't that orange. They do it to
make him... In fairness, it's not necessarily that they're making him orange, but I have noticed that sometimes television will make the colour brighter.
Do you know what? I love reading every year the Beano's political survey, and they reckon the most. So they survey the Beano survey the under 11s for their political views. Right, it's always a brilliant read. Right, they ask things like who's the most famous person in the world, and apparently
it's gone woke.
With amongst 10-year-olds, Donald Trump is the most famous politician ever, and apparently the reason is they like the fact he's got yellow hair. hair, an orange face,
yellow
and
hair
he's
and orange
round.
face, yeah.
So they just love that.
Yeah.
They just find it ultimately hilarious.
No, it is. It's great. He is a caricature, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like Desperate Dan.
I loved a few years ago when they asked them who is the most famous person in the world, and they said what was it? Third was the Queen, second was God, and first was Simon Cowell, the most famous person in the world.
Anyway, the front of the Daily Mail, it's Ukraine's fate in their hands. Trump wants rapid ceasefire and discusses Ukraine giving up land. Putin simply shrugs when asked if he will stop killing civilians. History was made in Alaska last night as Donald Trump and Putin flew in to discuss the future of the Ukraine. They shook hands on the tarmac before sitting down for talks that Washington... Oh, and here we go. Here is Donald Trump coming up to the podium, and presumably Putin will be coming to join him. And here they are. It's the press conference.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, our negotiations have been held in a constructive atmosphere of mutual respect. We had very thorough negotiations that were quite useful. I would like to thank once again my American counterpart for the proposal to travel out here to Alaska. It only makes sense that we've met here, because our countries, though separated by the oceans, are close neighbors. So when we've met, when I came out of the plane and I've said, "Good afternoon, dear neighbor, very good to see you, in good health, and to see you alive," I think that is very neighborly. And I think that's some kind words that we can say to each other. We're separated by the Strait of Bering, though there are 2 islands only between the Russian island and the U.S. island. They're only 4 kilometers apart. We're close neighbors, and it's a fact. It's also important that Alaska has to do with our common heritage, common history between Russia and the U.S., and many positive events have to do with that territory. Still, there is tremendous cultural heritage back from the Russian America. For example, Orthodox churches and a lot of more than 700 geographical names of Russian origin. During the Second World War, it was here in Alaska that was the origin of the legendary air bridge for the supply of military aircraft and other equipment under the Lend-Lease program. It was a dangerous and treacherous route over the vast emptiness of ice. However, the pilots of both countries did everything to bring closer the victory. They risked their lives and they gave it all for the common victory. I was just in the city of Magadan in Russia, and there is a memorial there dedicated to the Russian and the U.S. pilots. And there are 2 flags, the U.S. flag and the Russian flag. And I know that here as well there is such a memorial. There is a military burial place several kilometers away from here. The Soviet pilots are buried there who died during that dangerous mission. We're thankful to the citizens and the government of the U.S. for carefully taking care of their memory. I think that's very worthy and noble. We'll always remember other historical examples when our countries defeated common enemies together in the spirit of battle camaraderie and allyship that supported each other and facilitated each other. I'm sure that this heritage will help us rebuild and foster mutually beneficial and equal ties at this new stage, even during the hardest conditions. It is known that there have been no summits between Russia and the U.S. for 4 years, and that's a long time. This time was very hard for bilateral relations, and let's be frank, they've fallen to the lowest point since the Cold War. I think that's not benefiting our countries and the world as a whole. It is apparent that sooner or later we had to amend the situation to move on from the confrontation to dialogue. And in this case, a personal meeting between the heads of state has been long overdue. Naturally, under the condition of serious and painstaking work, and this work has been done in general. Me and President Trump have very good direct contact. We've spoken multiple times. We spoke frankly on the phone. And special envoy of the president, Mr. Witkoff, traveled out to Russia several times. Our advisors and heads of foreign ministries kept in touch all the time. And you know fully well that one of the central issues was the situation around Ukraine. We see the strive of the administration and President Trump personally to help facilitate the resolution of the Ukrainian conflict. And his strive to get to the crux of the matter, to understand this history, is precious. As I've said, the situation in Ukraine has to do with fundamental threats to our security. Moreover, we've always considered the Ukrainian nation, and I've said it multiple times, a brotherly nation. However strange it may sound in these conditions, we have the same roots, and everything that's happening is a tragedy for us and terrible wound. Therefore, the country is sincerely interested in putting an end to it. At the same time, we're convinced that in order to make the settlement lasting and long-term, we need to eliminate all the primary roots, the primary causes of that conflict. And we've said it multiple times, to consider all legitimate concerns of Russia and to reinstate a just balance of security in Europe and in the world on the whole. And I agree with President Trump, as he has said today, that naturally the security of Ukraine should be ensured as well. Naturally, we are prepared to work on that. I would like to hope that the agreement that we've reached together will help us bring closer that goal and will pave the path towards peace in Ukraine. We expect that Kiev and European capitals will perceive that constructively and that they won't throw a wrench in the works. They will not make any attempts to use some backroom dealings to conduct provocations to torpedo the nascent progress. Incidentally, when the new administration came to power, bilateral trade started to grow. It's still very symbolic. Still, we have a growth of 20%. As I've said, we have a lot of dimensions for joint work. It is clear that the U.S. and Russian investment and business cooperation has tremendous potential. Russia and the U.S. can offer each other so much in trade, digital, high-tech, and in space exploration. We see that it's still very symbolic. Still, we have a growth of 20%. As I've said, we have a lot of dimensions for joint work. It is clear that the U.S. and Russian investment and business cooperation has tremendous potential. Russia and the U.S. can offer each other so much in trade, digital, high-tech, and in space exploration. We see that Arctic cooperation is also very possible.
нашим Дальним Востоком и американским Западным побережьем. В общем, нашим странам важно и нужно перелистнуть страницу и вернуться к сотрудничеству. Символично, что неподалеку на границе России и США, как я уже говорил, проходит так называемая линия перемены дат, где можно буквально перешагнуть из вчера в завтра. Надеюсь, что у нас так и получится в политической сфере. Я хотел бы поблагодарить господина Трампа за совместную работу, за доброжелательный и доверительный тон беседы. Главное, что с обеих сторон был настроен на результат. Мы видим, что президент США имеет четкое представление о том, чего хочет добиться, искренне заботится о процветании своей страны и в то же время проявляет понимание наличию в России своих национальных интересов. Рассчитываю, что сегодняшние договоренности станут опорной точкой не только для решения украинской проблемы, но и положит начало восстановлению деловых, прагматичных отношений между Россией и США. Ну и в завершение хотел бы вот что добавить. Я помню, что в 2022 году, во время последних контактов с прежней администрацией, я тогда пытался убедить своего прежнего американского коллегу в том, что не нужно доводить до ситуации, после наступления, которые могут наступить тяжелые последствия в виде боевых действий. И прямо сказал тогда, что это
quite directly back then that it's a big mistake.
Вот сегодня мы слышим, когда президент Трамп
Today,
говорит, что
when
если бы
President
я
Trump
был
saying that
президентом, то войны
if
бы
he was
не
the
было.
president back then, there will be
Я
no
думаю,
war.
что так бы
And I'm
на самом деле
quite sure that it would indeed be
случилось.
so.
Подтверждаю
I
это.
can confirm
Потому
that.
что в целом у
I
нас
think that
с президентом Трампом
me and President
наладился
Trump
очень хороший
have built a very
деловой и
good
доверительный
business-like and
контакт.
trustworthy
И
contact.
у меня есть все основания полагать, что, двигаясь по этому пути, мы можем дойти и до, и чем быстрее, тем лучше, до завершения конфликта в Украине. Благодарю вас за внимание.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. That was very profound, and I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe, thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We also have some tremendous Russian business representatives here, and I think, you know, everybody wants to deal with us. We've become the hottest country anywhere in the world in a very short period of time, and we look forward to that. We look forward to dealing. We're going to try and get this over with. We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir. We had many tough meetings, good meetings. We were interfered with by the Russia hoax. That made it a little bit tougher to deal with, but he understood it. I think he's probably seen things like that during the course of his career. He's seen it all, but we had to put up with the Russia hoax. He knew it was a hoax, and I knew it was a hoax, but what was done was very criminal. But it made it harder for us to deal as a country in terms of the business and all of the things that we'd like to have dealt with. But we'll have a good chance when this is over. So just to put it very quickly, I'm going to start making a few phone calls and tell them what happened. But we had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I would like to thank President Putin and his entire team, whose faces, who I know in many cases, otherwise, other than that, whose faces I get to see all the time in the newspapers. You're almost as famous as the boss, but especially this one right over here. But we had some good meetings over the years, right? Good, productive meetings over the years, and we hope to have that in the future. But let's do the most productive one right now. We're going to stop really 5, 6, 7,000, thousands of people a week from being killed, and President Putin wants to see that as much as I do. So, again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, it sounded all a bit disappointing, didn't it, there? I mean,
bit of an anticlimax.
Bit of an anticlimax, you could see. And that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, Trump's in there for a few years. Putin's playing the long game, and he's, you know, he rules. What he says goes, whereas Trump has to go through all the... And so there's a sort of different power play, isn't there?
I know. But that wasn't what Trump wanted, was it?
No.
Anyway,
Rocky.
He wanted to be the man.
Rocky and Weymouth. Yeah, never mind. Maybe next time. But they're going to meet in Russia, I think he said. So maybe it's the beginning. All right, Rocky.
All right, Ash, how you doing?
All right, man. What's going on? We've got Danielle here as well.
Hello, Danielle.
Hi, Rocky.
Rocky, what's up? What do you want to talk about?
First thing I want to say is Ash, I think Mr. Whale would be very, very proud of you, of how you're doing with the show.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks, Rocky. Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
You definitely would.
Can you hear everything, Danielle?
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah.
And what else, Rocky? Thanks for that. Anyway, yeah. But what else?
What I wanted to say to Danielle, if you don't mind me saying, when we were talking about spirit stuff earlier, right?
Yeah.
Well, my mum passed away. I used to hear her voice, and it was quite sad for me because where I was in care when I was a kid, I didn't know her very well.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Thanks. And when I first met her, we just started to get to know each other, and then she passed away in front of me.
That is sad, yeah.
Oh.
And then, like, I would, you hear things like I'd hear her call my name.
Yeah.
And some people might think that I was going around the bend, but I definitely heard the voice. You know what I mean?
Do you know, they're realising that that grief can be physical, and I said this when my little girl died.
Oh, yeah.
I felt exhaustion was the feeling.
Well, that's why a couple's often one will die after doing it. It's a heart. The heart.
Well, I believe my granddad died from a broken heart. He died a year after my grandma, and he did not want to be here without my grandma.
No.
Men
and you
take
actually
it
feel
a lot.
it in your heart, don't
well,
you?
yeah, and men take losing a partner a lot harder than women because they tend not to have friends as they get older in the same way that women do. But I'm sorry about that, Rocky. But yeah, I think when like I said, I don't think it kind of it's nice that these people don't make fun of it, but I think when you lose somebody you love, I think sometimes the word coincidence is just not strong enough, is it?
No, because I don't usually mention it to anyone because people just think something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
But it must be a comfort to you. It must be a comfort to you to know that she's around.
It kind of is, because we never had a close relationship, and where I grew up in care, I got no family or nothing now. Do you know?
And do you feel good things happen to you, and she's making it happen for you? Do you get that ever?
Sometimes I wonder if I got a little angel on my shoulder. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what I say this because my husband's lost his mum, and I always say you've got a magic superpower because I think you've got a special guardian angel looking after you. Because let's be honest, as parents, I don't think we ever leave our children. I wouldn't think
And your children don't leave you either.
And they're a part of you, which is nice to know as well, scientifically. Yeah. Parts of my little girl have gone. I always say about the following little girl and boy that came after her, I always say that there's bits of her in them, and I see, and the truth is there is.
And
DNA-wise, there is.
Your mother actually made your daughter because when she was giving birth to you, a baby female already has its eggs in it, all its eggs. So your grandmother actually made your all your children's eggs in her body.
I know.
Isn't that quite weird?
It's quite weird to think about. Rocky, I do think that your mum is with you, and I think and there's a comfort in that.
Difficult.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I'm not massively open about it. If someone talks about it, I'll talk about it. But it's not like, I know what you mean. You do sometimes think.
This is probably the first time I mentioned it, actually, because what it was just before she passed away in front of me, she apologised for my upbringing. And it was the first time she had ever told me she loved me, because never in my life she had said that.
Oh.
So it was a very, very difficult moment, and I basically went off the rails. Do you know what I mean?
I'm glad you had that before she died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you had that.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant.
Well, thanks for calling in, Rocky. If you want to call in and talk about anything else, 03444 99 1000. What do you think is going to happen with Ukraine and anything else? The two-tier system after that Labour councillor got found not guilty for saying slit the throats and unbelievable stuff, while Lucy Connolly remains in prison. Anyway, we're going to be back. We've got Carl, Dave, Ken, Michelle, William, Matt and loads more. And your call, 03444 99 1000. We'll be back in just over a minute.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, it's fair to say that Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump press conference was so disappointing that I was busy colouring my hair at the time of the press conference. Yeah, clearly nothing has happened at all. No. I honestly thought I'd have a couple of minutes off.
I know.
And
he looked disappointed,
I thought
didn't he?
It was going to be some big announcement. And
no, can I tell you what happened? When Vladimir Putin started talking, you said, I might as well go home. Yeah. This is going to be on till 1 in the morning.
Yes.
And the producer went, no, believe me, this will be crap.
He looked really deflated, Trump, didn't he? Like he really, you know,
they've had a signing match.
He looked disappointed.
Can I tell you the big problem? On the serious note, think about democracies versus dictatorships. So you can say all day, Vladimir Putin's destroyed his economy. Vladimir Putin has no weapons left. Vladimir Putin's just printed, 17 trillion rubles. Vladimir Putin's killed 1 million Russians. Right. The big problem is, if Vladimir Putin stops now, what will happen day one is he will get a bullet in the back of his head. And the next thing that will happen is his daughters will have all the money he stole from the Russian taxpayer taken off them. Right? So it's like Adolf Hitler. Always remember, in the final days, Adolf Hitler can't turn to Stalin and go, hey, let's have a peace process. Adolf Hitler is going to die. Right, so basically, he just goes, well, let's just throw everything at it.
And the other thing is, Putin, you know, he's only got to wait 4 years before Trump's gone, and it's the next person, and that's the advantage of an authoritarian.
The big problem, the big problem that Vladimir Putin's got is they're going to take him out in a box. Yeah. And so he can't just turn around and go, hey ho lads, never mind. Do you know what I'd have done if I was Donald Trump? I'd have sat him down and I'd have gone, look, Mr. President, they're going to shoot you in the car park. Right, fact. I would say if you now accept a peace deal with Ukraine, we will allow you to retire to Kazakhstan or Belarus with all the money you've stolen from the taxpayer. Now Vladimir Putin would laugh at you and say no, but I'd say, listen, they're going to shoot you in the car park, Vladimir. It's simply a fact. You're not going to.
Wouldn't Russia nuke America if they did that?
No, his own people. He's not.
His own people.
He's not going to retire to his estate in the Black Sea, right? He's not. His daughters are not going to allow. His daughters have $200 billion of Russian state property. He's got one daughter. What's her name?
How many daughters does he have?
I think it's
no one quite knows.
So it's two with his wife, and he has others. There's somebody called Elizabeth Krivanova or something, and she claims to be his 24-year-old daughter. Her mum. Listen to this. Her mum was a cleaner in St. Petersburg, and she was gifted $100 million in shares, $100 million in shares to a Russian state bank. That is the level of the theft. Right. Now, look, what's going to happen? Vladimir Putin's bird is not going to be allowed to walk away with $100 million. It's not going to happen, right? So they'll...
And also, only you could call her Vladimir.
But what it's like what Assad did. What did Assad do? Get his bag, throw the jewellery in it, and get on a plane.
To Russia.
You're not gonna. It's not gonna end in the way. And it's exactly the same as I make the point. The reason why Adolf Hitler was getting 13-year-olds to run into Soviet machine gun fire was because he was dead anyway. It didn't make any difference. If anything he could do to survive, he would do. But there was no point in saving the country because he wasn't going to live. He wasn't going to live through it. That's the attitude of these dictators. Which, by the way, is the reason I make the point about the difference between somebody like Benjamin Netanyahu and the bosses of Hamas. Because when you're talking about a democratic state, you can be voted out for being terrible. Therefore, you will not behave in a way that a dictator will behave in. It's just a fact.
Plus, it's business. Obviously, they make billions of dollars if they keep the war going. If they don't, their career is finished.
Absolutely. OK, so some people have said you should get your own show, Ash. I believe in that. What we should do is we should bring back at the weekends and we should all get our own show.
I think we should. No, we'd be bored without each other.
We'll keep doing this Thursday and Fridays.
OK.
Right, yeah. Look, we've come up with the plan.
We've got a plan, don't worry.
OK, let's go to... Who are we going to go for first?
Ken in London.
Go on, Ken.
Hallelujah, Ken. Morning. What's going on, man?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to you and all your listeners and viewers. if you don't mind, I would like just to talk for a little while about my experience over 25 years calling into the James Whale show with Ash.
Yeah, yeah, please do, yeah.
Yes, you remember, Ash, I first called you from Lincoln.
It was Ken in Lincoln, then it was Ken in the Highlands, and it was Ken in Newcastle, and each time it lasted a couple of years, and it's been Ken in London. I remember I asked you, Ken, I
said... Is that because you've moved around, or you just didn't want to say where you lived?
I asked him, I said, how come you move everywhere you want, and you remember this associate, you can just move anywhere you just decide to move?
I just move around to go
to...
Hang on, explain that.
To spread the gospel, it's a housing association. So you can just, I fancy living in Westminster, and I go, oh, well, we'll have your flat ready in a couple of weeks.
Oh, as long as you preach the gospel?
Well, no, I think you just get...
I moved around as God directed me. I used to pray about it and ask God to direct me.
God directing him.
And what happened was Ken got down on his knees and prayed to God, and God said to him, Ken, what you need is a luxurious central London flat. Right?
I remember when you were...
Are you living in central London?
Yeah,
I'm joking.
I remember, well, he has in Westminster, but I remember when you were...
Is he living in Westminster?
Yeah, I remember when you were Ken in Athens for a couple of weeks.
Yes, it wasn't.
Anyway,
Athens,
tell us about you. Tell us about
Malta.
Tell us about
Malta.
Malta.
But listen, and I don't want to take up too much of your time as others want to call on too, but I remember the very first time I called the show to speak to James, and I mentioned to him that I believed in Jesus Christ and was a born-again Christian. He said,
you don't normally.
He said, you're talking rubbish, get him off. And he cut me off within about 16, 20 seconds. But anyway, I kept calling in, and eventually he started to allow me to speak.
Yeah.
But sadly, very sadly I say this, I found out that James Whale, over my 25 years experience calling into James and Ash, I found out that James took great pleasure in mocking Jesus Christ, the Bible, and Christianity.
But don't you see that as your failure, seeing as you preached at him for 25 years without success? Isn't that your fault, Ken?
No, it's not a matter of success. James said, there's no man in the history of media has heard the gospel more.
But hang on, Ken. Let me just make this point to you. I don't know if you were listening earlier, but the point we were making was that it's very easy to say that James Whale was a mocker of this or an attacker of that or whatever. But actually, in reality, he used to come into his studio every day. It seems to me, Ash would know better, but it seems to me, as somebody who believed that a debate was important for a free society. Yeah. And if he was going to criticise the Bible, he'd criticise the Bible. If he was going to criticise atheists, he'd criticise atheists. If he's going to criticise Satan worshippers, he'd criticise... But the point was, he didn't sit there seething with rage about these people. Yeah. What he basically did, as he saw it, was challenged people when it was appropriate to challenge them.
It's like prodding.
Yes, I agree with that, Andre. However, it never affected me. I called in because I knew others were listening. If he wasn't interested, there's others were listening, and they would hear the love of God and we need to repent and be saved to get to heaven. But I would just like to say there's no media announcer, host in history has heard consistently over a 25-year period about the love of God and his offer of forgiveness. James Whale, when he died, had absolutely no excuse. He heard the gospel for 25 years.
All right. Well,
do you have to preach, Ken?
Yeah, he's commissioned by the Lord. Anyway, let's speak to Matt in Cheshire.
I do want to say one thing. I think it is important. By the way, there is another point to make that you listening and you watching might not know, but we know in the studio. Always remember, the fact that we are allowing you to broadcast your point is in of itself supportive.
Yes.
So
what people think
Ken always says freedom of speech.
What people think is, oh my God, they put me on and then they disagreed with me. Yeah, but we did put you on.
But he's admitting his own failure as a salesman of Jesus.
I think you make a very, very serious mistake when you ascribe. Right, let me get this right, because I don't want to make it sound like he was insincere. But James Whale was not expressing his opinion. James Whale was trying to solicit a debate.
Yes.
That's what was going on.
Yes.
And therefore, I would be very, very nervous indeed about saying I watched James Whale slag off X, and that means that was his actual view.
I agree.
His actual view was, whatever you debate at the time is important for democracy. That was
but I mean, he wasn't like one of those people who'll just take a side to do it. He did sort of normally believe, or he made himself believe it, so he was convinced.
No, but he would argue what he believed in that moment, which is what I try and do. Because I honestly,
he changed his mind. He was a Remainer and then he was a Brexiteer, he came to his senses.
I maintain the one thing that was inauthentic about him was that Remainer thing. I'm convinced it's because he liked Charlie Mullins so much.
No, it's because he had an Italian restaurant that he had to keep buying pasta and Italian ingredients for and bailing out, No, that's probably what it was.
What did you just say? Press the dump button. Press that dump button.
I mean, it was cheaper in the EU, the pasta and all that. Anyway, let's go to Matt in Cheshire. Matt.
Hi, good evening. Sorry, good morning.
Good morning, Matt.
Yeah.
I was just calling about the loudmouth Labour councillor.
Yeah,
I was
Ricky,
thinking that
Jones.
they have sort of they have a habit of sort of being aggressive.
They're nasty, aren't they? Often the far left are quite vicious.
I think the far anything is really.
Well,
isn't it?
I don't know. I think just even not far left, just lefties generally can be quite nasty. I mean, you look at the Brexit and Remain, and they were saying horrible things about Brexit people, whereas if Remain would have won, Brexit people would have accepted.
Isn't there a fantastic, really old video though on YouTube about the guy who? I'm going to get this wrong now. The Fawlty Towers guy.
John Cleese.
Yes, and he does a really good piece about the far anything and how it. Have you seen it?
John Cleese for many years was a Liberal Democrat, and he genuinely believed that everybody was an extremist lunatic and just everyone needed to calm down.
Do you remember when John Cleese about 10 years ago went, "Oh, London's not British anymore," and everyone went, "Oh, how dare you? You're racist," and now everyone says that. You know what I mean? So
what makes me laugh is, somebody like John Cleese castigated as an extremist. He was a member. He used to do Lib Dem party political broadcast. Now, there's many things you can say about the Lib Dems, but extremists they ain't. Right?
Matt.
Yes, sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry. Sorry.
It was about John McDonnell. I remember he said a few years ago when he was Shadow Chancellor that Esther McVeigh should be lynched.
Yeah, here's the big problem with them all. And the reason why you have concentration camps in Nazi Germany, because I believe the Nazis are far left, by the way, but we can argue about it, but I believe that the dichotomy is authoritarian versus libertarian, effectively. But the reason why they have all of these torture camps and in the Lao guys in China and the gulags in Russia is this: the left have got themselves convinced that they are trying to eradicate evil, and so they go, "Oh yeah, all right, we know we should have," this is what Keir Starmer would say, "we know we should have free speech, but come on, all we're doing is prohibiting bad people from saying stuff." That's the problem.
Which makes them the...
that's how you start, and where you end is in the gulags.
Yes,
tyranny.
I agree.
That's tyranny.
We're not talking about people from the Chinese Communist Party. We're talking about really drab middle-class teachers and stuff, and pathetic like weasels who lie about things on the CVs, and these people aren't tough guys.
Yeah, but this is how it starts in those authoritarian countries, isn't it? It starts in Iran. It was the Islamists and the left wing together did topple the revolution, and then when they did it, the Islamists murdered all the lefties.
Wasn't Adolf Eichmann known as something like the Grey Eminence? Because basically, he was the man who masterminded the Holocaust, and he was famously boring. Because he just sat there all day in his office going, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll restrict free speech. Let's get Jews to wear a star. Right? It was
basically people in the council, isn't it?
The reality. The reality is, what kills people in these dictatorial regimes are these dullard bureaucrats coming up with these. They'd never say it to your face because they ain't got the guts.
Weasels. Yeah.
That's the reality, Matt.
My view of Labour generally is that the people that you went to school with who were no good at sport, they were
bullied at school. A lot of these people, you can see it.
Yeah, my MP is Jonathan Reynolds and Keir Starmer.
He looks like the Tsar, doesn't he, Jonathan Reynolds, nowadays? But anyway.
He's just the drabbest, drollest man you'll ever meet, just like Starmer.
Well, Putin was like that. Notoriously, he was no one ever thought he was going to be leader. He was boring and laid under the radar. He was just a sort of KGB mid. Suddenly he creeps up the boring man.
But we have a major problem in this country now, and I think that we need to worry about it. The brightest and the best don't go into politics anymore. It's the dull, the ignorant, the stupid.
It seems that
way, we've got now. Let me just think. At least the past 3 prime ministers haven't known anything about politics. Which is...
And you get the impression...
Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak and what's her name, Liz Truss. They don't know anything about politics. Rishi Sunak didn't understand that you can't say you can't have the Elgin marbles the week the Greek Prime Minister came to Britain.
He's only been an MP 8 years before he was Prime Minister, and Starmer hadn't even joined the Labour Party until about a year before he became MP.
He was like a maths nerd,
They're like the face. They want to be leader in the face, but actually there's other people running it, the civil service, Tony Blair, and in America it was Obama. They're running things and they're just using them.
What's Rishi doing now?
To be honest, I honestly believe that Rishi held that general election because it would give him time to relocate the kids for the start of term in September.
Do you think?
I genuinely believe that. He's returned to Goldman Sachs. He's gone back to his old job.
Also, they knew about the injunction with all these Afghanis. He knew about that.
You say that. Ben Wallace, the former Secretary of State for Defence for the Conservatives, has been on the TV saying how proud he is of the Afghan resettlement scheme. These people are on a different planet. The European
Rishi
Union...
wasn't even voted in proper, was it?
The European...
They got rid of Boris with the cake.
No, hang on a second. Rishi lost the election and Robert Mugabe style got the job anyway.
I know.
But you've got people now in Brussels talking about shielding democracy. They're openly saying we need to stop populists like Nigel Farage becoming leaders across the continent. That's the reality. This shielding of democracy. In the Labour Party, they have become entirely convinced that what they are doing is brilliant for the country, but the people of Britain are stupid and are being lied to by people like talkTV. That's it. That's what they believe. Should we go to a break, Asher?
Yeah,
and I'll calm down.
03414991000. It's me, Danielle, Andre. You're listening and watching Talk. Back in a couple of minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk, and this is a late-night phone-in bit with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Danielle Nichols. By the way, there's been one or two people who've been pretty unhappy with Ken from London. I think what we thought about this was, obviously we don't want to go too far with comments about James because he's only just passed away, but it is fair to say that he was robust enough and big enough to take criticism. But I take the point that people are making about what Ken said.
Yeah, it's a bit harsh, I think, because.
But like Andre says, James would have loved all that, and he would have loved the controversy, from that.
I'll tell you what I always do. I always defer to Asher because having sat next to him for 30 years, he knows what he would have thought.
Yes.
And if he thinks it's all right, then it normally is. So you've come up with a new segment, haven't you?
So the producer Chuck and myself, we're going to do a segment called The Daily Danielle.
Well, how going to be on every day?
Yeah.
But it can't be daily. It's not daily.
That's what we're calling it.
No, but we're only
calling it the Daily Danielle.
But we're on once a week.
Daily Mail.
It could be the weekly Wally. It couldn't be the Daily Danielle.
The Weekly Wally?
It's very hurtful.
Who do you think you're talking to, Ginger?
Well,
let me have my thing.
It's the Daily Danielle.
You are wearing a rugby shirt.
I am wearing a rugby shirt.
Underneath a blazer.
Yes, I am. I look like Tim Nice, but dim.
Yeah, and you've got a ginger quiff. So I think if I want to call this feature the Daily Danielle...
What does that have a bearing on the time?
Because you shouldn't have...
It's not the Daily...
You shouldn't have any say...
The fact that I'm wearing a rugby...
Because you shouldn't have any say in the matter.
The fact that I'm wearing a rugby shirt and have a ginger quiff...
What's with the rugby shirt?
What is with the rugby shirt? I moved to Windsor.
Northerners do wear rugby shirts.
You want it to be a top.
I've moved to Windsor, and every shop just has rugby. They all look like they're going to the polo. So I went to Crew Clothing, Super. I'll tell you what amazed me. Do you remember?
You need some stolen from Ivor.
That gets stolen from Ivor.
Do you remember stolen from Ivor?
No, only us two do. Right. Anyway.
Okay, yeah.
Which was owned by Ivor Bigham.
Let's zip through the. Let's zip
so
through
you're going to go for the Daily Danielle. The Daily Danielle weekly segments.
Okay. Credit brunch, Cadbury, cuts. Now I've got something else to ask here. Cadbury have changed how they make their chocolate, haven't they?
Yeah, they have.
I knew it.
What do you mean? What, is there not a glass and a half in every...
It's not as nice.
It's not as creamy.
Sure it's something to do with palm oil.
To the Americans,
it's American, yeah. And I'm annoyed about it.
I think it was sold again after that.
It's not what it used to be.
Fault.
I watched a documentary, and there was this food scientist in Bourneville who was making a new type of dairy milk that had 30% less sugar. Right, he was trying to make it and all this, and he clearly didn't put a lot of work in. And at the end of the show, they went, "Are there less calories in it?" And he went, "That's not what it's all about. It's about reducing your sugar." And unbelievably, they'd made the dairy milk with 30% less sugar, and it was still as
calorific. Yeah,
it was still as fat.
I went to college in Bourneville, and actually, it's a Quaker. It's still.
It's very pretty.
They're not allowed to sell. There's no pubs, and when Tesco's tried to open there to sell alcohol, they couldn't because there's a charter on it. The Cadbury's.
Well, I did the Cadbury's tour. So I do know.
But did you notice when you're in Bourneville, the people actually they dressed like like the people on the porridge on the front of the porridge packet. They got the hat on and the stock, and you see them walking around. Even the kids are in
my favourite chocolate fact is in the United States of America. In order to ensure the chocolate doesn't melt, they mix it with butyric acid, which is why it tastes like chocolatey vomit.
Vomit, yeah.
Because you know if you eat chocolate and vomit, it's chocolate.
Oh my!
No, hang on. Right.
It won't melt.
It's chocolate.
Can I read me story?
It's chocolate mixed with hydrochloric acid, right?
Oh, Jesus.
But because their chocolate is already mixed with acid, to British people it tastes like chocolatey vomit.
It does. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Cadbury's have cut the number of brunch bars in a pack from 5 to 4, less than a year after already shrinking them. Have you had one of these Cadbury brunch bar? You've ate them in 2 mouthfuls. They're supposed to be like a bit healthy. They're like a flapjacky type thing with a bit, with a tiny.
Typical American. They bastardised our chocolate. They put Jello and things like that.
We can be critical.
And now there's less bars in there.
Yeah, but
there's less shrinkflation.
But we can be critical of these people. But let's just defend the owners of Cadbury's for 1 minute.
Okay.
Right. Point number 1: the government's breathing down their neck to reduce the amount of sugar and calories in all their bars. Right. Point number 2: the cost of electricity. You and I are on the energy price cap. A bloody factory where they're melting stuff. The cost will be horrendous.
5 times what they pay in America.
The cost of petrol to deliver stuff will be horrendous. So basically, we are doing this to them. It's not actually their fault. It's not like they're making a bigger profit. What's happening is their costs have gone through the roof.
Going to the dogs. Speaking of which, Iceland are offering £1 to lift a lifter. Iceland customers will be paid to report shoplifters, says boss Richard Walker. He says the chain would give shoppers £1 on their loyalty
cards. £1? Is that it?
A quid to shop if they point out thieves to staff.
You could stay there all day like a store detective and make like 30 quid.
Let me just say though something. I see people shoplifting.
Yep.
Like,
why don't you report them and get £1?
But the staff know that they're doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't understand.
But do you know when you say it's only £1, right? Do you know I went to the Oval to watch the cricket, which is so boring. But anyway, they give you £1 for returning the plastic cups. So in the end, I got 100 of them. Right, and my mate went, you can't go through the bins and get the cups out. It was 1 hour, 100 quid. Right, there's that many bloody shoplifters about now. And £1 a time, you'll make it. But
the thing is, you're right. Once they say it to them, they'll go, well, we're not going to do anything, but thanks for letting us know.
This is a problem. Iceland is believed to be the first major UK supermarket to incentivise shoppers in this way. Asked if he thought the policy would deter thieves, Mr Walker told Channel 5 News, well, yeah, because some people see it as a victimless crime and it's not.
No, it's not.
It also keeps prices from being lowered because it's at a cost to the businesses, it's at a cost to the hours that we pay to our colleagues, as well as obvious being about intimidation and violence.
Also,
let me say something though. What did I say to you about a year ago? About self-checkout.
Come over here and bring the special pants.
I said self-checkouts and the cost of shopping. Do you remember the bloody trolling that I got because I dared say how expensive my shop was? Right. Well, I said to you, this is what annoys me, because people will not go hungry. People will not feed the kids or not feed the babies or whatever.
Yeah.
They will just nick stuff.
I get that.
I think
but there's food banks.
But they'll use them as well if the point is,
but a lot of these thieves are robbing it to sell.
It is too expensive. I don't necessarily think so.
Okay. But so first of all, if people are stealing because they're starving, then that clearly is a problem. However, that doesn't really explain why.
Do you know that they lock their bins? They have like a lock on their bins, so you can't go through the bins and take the stuff that they're throwing away.
I understand that.
That's terrible.
Now, come on.
No.
For me, if someone is prepared to go through a dustbin to find something to eat,
hang on
give them the food.
Hang on. So I agree with that. Hang on 1 second, right? So I understand that. But why is it that the only thing that things are being stolen other than value pizzas? Because remember, shops, merch, things like makeup's being stolen, perfumes being stolen, vodka's being stolen, batteries. So justify batteries.
Well, no, I know what you're saying, of course. But however, batteries are very expensive. They are expensive.
I understand that, but what you're saying is that there are a percentage of people who are stealing to eat.
I
understand that, but also the vast majority. Can I tell you something?
I know people who say things like, "Well, I pay that much for my shopping that when I'm beeping it through." I'm not going to say who this is, but they say, I just don't beep that one through. And that's somebody who's a very upstanding citizen.
My best mate was in Chisinau, Moldova and Bucharest, Romania last week, right? And I will tell you that in Bucharest, you can order stuff from Selfridges to be stolen in the United Kingdom and shipped back to Bucharest.
No.
You can say, I want, 5 bottles of Penhaligons, and they'll do it.
Really?
Right? That's the level. It's serious organised crime.
Yeah. And that's different again, but I believe there's always going to be serious organised crime. I know what you're saying. There's always been... I saw it for the first time when I first came to London. I saw a guy wear a Montclair-type coat, then put his coat over the top of it and then just walk out.
But that's 90%
I was only a young kid. I was about 19. I remember thinking, oh!
But do you know how I knew that when I went to Tesco's in Ascot, how I knew it was being robbed, right? I knew because I'd watched a documentary about Romanian gangs, right? And what the guy was doing was stealing one type of wet wipe. And do you know why he was stealing one type? Because what they do is they go around every shop and they steal, say, 20 wet wipes of the same brand.
Okay.
Then they repackage them up and sell them wholesale. So you think a shoplifter goes one Colgate, one wet wipe, one can of beer?
No, they clear a whole shelf.
They clear a whole shelf, and then they say. So what you can do is once again.
I watched a lady buy a load of noodles, and she got to the front, and those 24p noodles that they were at one point in Asda, and she had a pack, and they said no, we can only sell you 10, and I thought, how do you not know that she's not? It weren't even that number.
Why couldn't they sell them more than 10 packs of noodles?
No, it was something like, it was small. It was only 4 or 5 or something. And she said, no, this is what we're having for our tea. And I thought, why can't they sell her?
I'll tell you. Do you know the actual reason? It's got nothing to do with them making a loss.
They said it was to do with
because other people need them.
Yeah.
So let me give you.
You could overdose.
Let me give you.
No, when I had no money in London, that's all I lived off.
Let me give you another example. Let me give you another example. One of the big problems that Tesco's and Sainsbury's and whatever have is this. So one of the high-value items that Romanian gangs like to steal are nappies. Now, to be fair, part of the problem is the loss to Sainsbury's, but the other problem is a Tesco's Express or whatever, a Sainsbury's local, right? The mums come in at the last minute because they've got no... And of course, the problem is that shop is designed for you to have these last-minute purchases. Yes. Baby food, nappies and stuff like that are an absolute nightmare. But they're stealing them to order. I guarantee you and I could fly, because I know a Romanian speaker, you and I could fly to Bucharest and we could order from Asda in London, whatever we want, and they'll ship it.
Well, then maybe, well, let's be honest. We know that people...
We should probably actually do that and film it and put it on this channel.
There's more. We know that there's more organised crime, but I still believe that when prices of food just went ridiculous, I think there always has been, always will be. But I think the reason that it's such a problem right now is because of how overpriced it is.
I agree. I do agree with that.
That's my personal opinion. Okay, and speaking of which,
a lot of our people watching this. I mean, we had a guy phoned in once who had 50p in his account to last the week.
Yeah.
There are people like that. There's no doubt about that.
Fat Jabs, Fat Cats are going to double its cost.
Triple,
now,
this is
interesting,
Mount
is
Kilimanjaro.
Well, this is interesting because do you know that once you're on
it,
you kind of have to be on it for life.
You have to.
Yeah, but you're not
if you
meant
want
to do
stay
it for a couple
losing
of
weight.
years. Yeah, no, it's like
so
a diet
it's
when you
supposed to change your eating habits.
But I heard one bloke on, I think he phoned in one of the shows, and he said he's off it now and he's managed to, because he'd lost 7 stone or something, he'd managed to keep it down. I suppose your stomach shrinks and your psychological, but what will happen to him in a year or two?
I believe it's to do with the rubbish that they pump into our food, the addictive substance that's been found in things like Doritos or other products that have got it in, and I think that is a massive, that's the bigger problem,
oh my God, can I tell you something? I don't know if it was the year you went, but I was in the Royal Enclosure Ascot, and I'm not going to say the brand, but it's to do with popping and stopping, right?
Yeah.
And this guy went, oh, I made 20 or 30 million pounds. And I went, oh, how did you do it? He went, when we wash potatoes, some starch comes off it, and they used to throw it in the bin.
Smush.
So what they now do is they form it
into
a type of crisp. And I went, what type of crisp is that? And he named a very well-known pop and stop brand.
Once you pop, you can't stop. But I mean, Marmite.
I stopped my kids from eating them because I didn't know that's what. I didn't know they didn't involve.
Yeah, but once they pop, they can't stop, can they?
Well, I don't let them have any.
They can't stop.
It's apparently the waste water from when they wash
potatoes. Yeah, but what's Marmite is the sort of from hops from the beer, isn't it?
From brewing.
There's a lot of goodness in waste food. You remember, in fact, TGI Fridays, I think it's sort of going a bit.
I just don't understand
the potato skins were a throwaway thing.
That's a reasonable point.
Some bloke said, well, we can put this in, and people love them.
Like, has Pret still got that thing where they give out out-of-date food to the homeless? Like, I just
That's where I get my Pret now. Because they're at Waterloo. I fall into the crowd and they give me all the
big problem. So the reason that Iceland have a lock on their bin actually is all to do with insurance. It's all to do with insurance.
They say that, but
I don't agree.
As an example, if you have a sell-by, a sell-by date...
Because if you steal it, then they can't say, well, you made me
you can
sick.
still sue.
Well, that's ridiculous.
I'll tell you what we
had. They should just put a big sign saying, if you nick something from this bin, you cannot sue us. That's what they do, don't they?
when I worked in home shopping, this is health and safety gone mad. We had these black and white TVs that we were selling on the cheap, and say we sold 10,000 of them, maybe 500 came back from people who didn't want them. Do you know what? Anyone who returned them, because we didn't have the capacity to retest them, electrical test, we got them, perfectly good TVs in working order, put a hammer through the screen and threw them in the bin so nobody could use them. That is disgusting. The way a lot of A lot of Amazon returns just go in the bin.
At the old Talk Radio in Oxford Street, I went round the back up Newman Street. There was a shoe shop, and I saw a bin bag full of brand new shoes, and I looked at them, and they'd all been slashed with a Stanley knife down the side. I thought it was horrible.
Hey, I'll tell you what. We're going to go to a break now, but there was a guy that I heard about, a police officer in D Division of the Metropolitan Police. This is brilliant. So D Division, diplomatic protection. What he used to do was he used to always approve. And so I might not get this story quite right, but anyway, he had knowledge of when embassies ordered skips. Right, so why is this important? Yeah. So what happens
I'm the daughter of a skip man, by the way, so we got some great stuff. I have a beautiful church chair
listen to this.
Skips are the best.
Listen to this. Every ambassador, when they come in and they serve for 3 years, gets rid of all the furniture and all the paintings of the previous ambassador. So do you know what he did?
Go on.
He used to hire a van, and every week when somebody would throw out, and he'd pick it all up, and he kept it. And they reckon he's worth £2.5 million. Now, because somebody would pay, 20 grand for a painting, and then the next guy'd come in and go, what a load of old rubbish, and throw it
the old Talk TV, we had a skip where there used to be lots of stuff they'd throw away, and I remember there was a whole skip full of Michelle Marsh calendars.
I know her.
I could have got you a calendar. Anyway, on that bombshell, we'll take a break. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, we've had that bombshell, haven't we? This is the Late Show with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Danielle Nichols, that W.H. Smiths are going to be called T.J. Jones.
I know.
Because they've sold a lot of them on the high street, and the new owners want to give it a name where you know it's W.H. Smith. But I'll tell you an amazing fact about W.H. Smiths. When W.H. Smith started calling themselves...
So you have to get a loan if you want to buy anything from them.
Yes.
Yeah.
When W.H.
Smith... Yeah, but you get a free bottle of water.
When W.H. Smith started calling themselves Smiths, they decided they were going to sue Smiths of Wigan, the bookshop, and this is superb.
What about the crisps?
Not only that... Smiths of Wigan won the case, and W.H. Smiths were not allowed to call themselves Smiths in Wigan because they said Smiths of Wigan, the booksellers, had existed before W.H. Smiths were founded.
I'm going to just say this: if you're ever in the airport, this is just a tip for everyone. I know you always hate my money-saving tips. But
here's
not you personally,
one of Danielle's
the viewers.
hateful tips.
One of my hateful tips is always get the meal deal in Boots. Everything you need, get it in Boots. It's miles cheaper than W.H. Smith. Being a woman that jet sets around as I do.
Can I tell you something else that's disgusting?
Go on.
You know when you when you buy something in an airport, say in a Boots or a WH Smith, and they say, "Can you put your boarding card on?"
Yeah.
Do you know what they're doing?
Go on.
They're claiming the VAT back on your behalf and not giving it to you.
No.
That is what they're doing.
Well, Boots don't ask for a boarding card, I don't think.
No, but if they do ask for a boarding card to zap it, forget the duty free. So the duty free.
They do that in, I think, Accessorise.
Yep. It's to get the VAT back.
No, I get a lot of stuff from there. Oh, gutted. Anyway, we got callers. Callers are flooded in. Stephen in London. What's up, man? What's up, baby? Steve. Steve!
Hello, mate. How you doing?
All right, man. What's going on, Steve?
Well, I was going to talk about Russia, but you just unlocked a whole load of things about going on earlier. You're talking about the old shoplifting. Now, I have to admit I was guilty of doing that a bit last year when I was made redundant and then evicted from my house and spent 3 months street homeless. I've no
sorry
choice
about
but
that.
to. Yeah.
And was part of it that you were seeing lots of other people doing it, and you think, well, I'm skint. I'm gonna. Was it part of the, like the broken windows policy?
I think some people are desperate.
Yeah.
I didn't see no one else doing it. I just had to. I'm type 1 diabetic. I had to get food. There's no one else around. And
There's no food banks or nothing, because I mean, obviously it's illegal. But was there nowhere else you could get food?
Well, I was getting referred to places, but it was always knocking on a brick wall. Nothing really helpful there at all. Yeah, it's just, in London, it's just like, you're queuing up for hours and hours, and unless you get there early.
Yeah, Mum. Yeah.
So what would you go nicking then? Would you was it just basic stuff like eggs and bread and things like that?
No, because I was street homeless. Just things like chocolate bars, chicken dips.
So all the stuff that you don't really need.
A milk? Do you get I always give a little pint of milk to the homeless guy. They usually want a pint of milk. It's a good thing to have.
You must never do that.
Why?
Well, you've got to be quite careful. A lot of the people that are on the street homeless begging for food are people who are drug addicts or alcoholics and won't give up the drugs or alcohol to go into the shelter. Therefore, by giving them food...
I'm sorry, I always do. I always buy them a brew for
It is hard to know what to do.
Stephen, what?
Sorry.
Do you know what, guys? I was kept away from those guys because I was in a really good professional job and made redundant, and I kept away from that club.
What did you used to do then, Stephen?
I was a senior policy advisor for a financial services, and it just went down the pan going from COVID down there.
And you lost your job. And
wow!
And what were you in your 50s or something? So it was hard to get another job.
Well, no, I'm only in my early 40s.
Oh, younger than me.
Well, I have to say, I mean that's worrying because actually the big problem with someone like Stephen. Sorry to talk over you, but somebody like that. If they go on the streets and do hang around with the druggies and drinkers, it won't be long before they are unsavable.
And you know what? If I had to sleep on the street, I'd want to be.
Yeah, no, that's exactly.
See, that's for guys. It's like I was quite exhausted because I was sleeping on the trains, and I got a way of getting myself into housing.
Right.
Is that I was using Twitter and crowdfunding to raise money, and when I got into a hostel and then got to crisis and then got into places. So I was sort of.
So where do you live now? You've got your place now, have you? Where are you in London?
I'm in Canning Town, not the best of places.
But the big problem is when you're talking about crowdfunding and going to crisis and organising, that takes a level of skill and intelligence and sobriety that a lot of these people do not possess.
Yeah, but you see, because I've got my university degrees, I've got my wits about me, so I always.
Well, you were a former professional, and it's unusual, isn't it, to hear about people like that slipping through the net.
There's a lot more on the streets than you think. There's a lot more people.
A lot of people sofa surfing as well.
Did you ever have a drugs problem, like when you were at work or anything like that led you down this road?
No, never at all. I had a bit of a drink problem. I was going through my divorce years ago, but that's when you got kids involved.
A lot of it is drink, isn't it? A lot of it is drink.
But
it's probably the worst drug of all.
It was never a crutch to rely on, but
Yeah. Well, that's important. Thanks then, Steve.
Thank you for ringing in, though,
I think we'll go for... Paul's going to be the last call.
I've got some text here just before, Paul.
Okay.
Hi, Andre, Ash, Danielle. Listening to the Cadbury stories, when they do all these low-fat, sugar-calorie, whatever they claim, they take real ingredients like sugar and then use chemical concoctions like sweeteners. We then eat those chemical mixtures and then wonder why people are getting ill. That's from
I
Oliver.
agree. I absolutely agree.
Completely.
We have full-fat butter, full-fat milk in our house.
Well, butter is, it's better, isn't it, the margarine?
Because people started drinking semi-skimmed milk in the tea and putting 15 sugars in instead.
But actually, you get more nutrition from full-fat milk because it actually helps the bioavailability of the vitamins.
Yes.
Anyway, Danielle, you can't go wrong with Galaxy. It's always superior to Cadbury's. I do love Galaxy.
Apparently,
I mean, why have cotton when you can have silk?
Lindor, is it Lindor? Don't put any palm oils in their chocolate. Is that right?
I don't know, man. Also, have you tried Tony's chocolate? Yum, Karen, and so on. I didn't think it was that good. And it's a bit overpriced, isn't it?
It's very expensive.
About £4, £3.50 a bar.
But I like it.
What about Love Chocolate by James Cadbury? The first member of the Cadbury family to re-enter the chocolate business.
What?
Do you know
there's a guy called James Cadbury who started a chocolate company?
Oh, well, there you go.
Well, just a quick story. When I moved, when I was living in Birmingham, one of the Cadbury family lived over the road, and the milkman came and said, "Oh, have you heard the chocolate people are moving in over the road?" My mum thought he was being racist. I had to go at him. He didn't actually mean Cadbury's. Anyway, Paul in Wolverhampton.
Morning, guys.
Morning. You're going to be the last call. You got a couple of minutes, Paul.
Yeah, all I'm going to say to you is I just can't believe Ken. I think he's an absolute disgrace. I know what you've said earlier on. You guys agreed with him. I just wish you'd put me on the telly with him because I would watch.
Yeah, but James would have loved it anyway. But anyway, what else?
What
else, Paul?
It's not. Anyway,
it's still disrespectful.
About shoplifting. I worked in a department store and I worked with the 3 or 4 different cosmetic brands, high-end brands, makeup, skincare, perfume. Anyway, the department store that I worked in was about 10 minutes walk from where my granddad lived, where there was a little pub at the back of the Wolves ground called The Feathers. Yeah. And I had a spout of shoplifting. One day, I took my granddad up the pub with my dad for a drink. This geezer walks in. He goes, "Want to buy any perfume for your Christmas presents?" And I looked in the back, and there's stuff off my counter. I went, "Hey, you bastard, you've nicked it off my counter."
You've nicked him off
Hey,
my
I'll tell you
another minute. What happened?
I had a friend of mine who had a break-in, and he got a watch that